Yeah. Excellent. Well, welcome, gentlemen. Whiskey and Rum Part 4. It's been 3 months since we did our last Whiskey and Rum, me and Camel Finance, and I had the great pleasure of having Cobra Stacker join us in this Whiskey and Rum. So you all good, guys? You all good?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for having us. I feel quite honoured as well to be in the presence of the almighty Camel.
You're far too kind.
Yeah, we'll see if you still think the same in 2 hours.
Yeah, yeah. Once a few rums come in, I'm sure your opinion of me will dip significantly.
Well, I wish I could drink with you today, but I might not be able to. So I'll be the sober one. I'll control the
You
fighting
des
as it goes on.
you designated driver today,
That's the one. That's the
you?
one.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm sure we're both drinking enough for you, Cobra.
Perfect.
Anyway, so you're all okay. Good. Right. This whiskey and rum, I thought would be quite appropriate to be titled "What a Time to Be Alive," as that's something that Camel says so often on his videos, but it's quite appropriate, I think. And I thought I'd just list like 2024. We're only what, third month into it, and there's so many things we could talk about if we want to talk about them. But I'm just going to very quickly just go through a few of them, and that's mainly about Great Britain, but it could be a worldwide global thing. And that we've got recession, cost of living, inequality, rising prices, assets going through the roof, dropping out, they're up and down. It's crazy. Gold pumping, Bitcoin pumping, interest rates. Are they going up? Are they going down? Are they going to affect us? You've got elections this year on this side of the pond and obviously in America. Budgets, obviously new budgets coming along. You've got housing, lots of people talking about housing. Crisis. Is it going to be a crisis? Is it not? The markets are going crazy. What a time to be alive. It's mad.
Well, it's all going on for sure, and like you said, you mentioned so many different assets and different things that are going on. And it's true. And sometimes you don't know which way to look, which is why I look at Camel quite a bit.
I don't know which way to look either, mate.
Great. We're all blind.
Yeah, it's a blind leading the blind here, to be honest.
Absolutely.
That's why I always say one day at a time, one day at a time. The only thing I know is I don't know. And yeah, that tends to
It,
work.
it, on a joking side, I did turn around to CPM a couple of times after watching your videos, and I went, "Bruv, I've just watched Camel's video," and all he said to me, or all he said to all of us, was, "Well, yeah, it could go up, or it could go down." And I thought he hasn't told me nothing. It could go up or it could go. Yeah, that's obvious, Camel. Thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. I mean, that's how it works, right? It could go up and
Yeah,
it could go down. That is how it works, right? And if it goes up, then we should buy, and if it goes down, we should probably sell. So that's
uh,
really what it is.
well,
yeah. I think that's the basic rule of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
that's a great subject to start it off on, actually, um, because what I find just by watching video. Oh, Camel, can I just say, I hope you don't think I've penned you in today on the video on my screen.
No.
You look like you're in a camel pen.
That's all right. I'm used to being locked in a room by myself. That's fine.
So I might feed you every now and then a bit of hay or something. Get back to what Cobra said. It's really interesting. A lot of the videos I watch, and I've been messaging. Well, we've been swapping emails recently, Camel, and I've been really observing. Um, People seem to be wanting answers more and more now. And I've often sat there and I thought, is that because one, people are lazy, maybe. Two, people are scared, people are desperate. Are you finding that through responses through you guys, your channels at all?
I think it speaks to just where we are in the cycle. We're late in the longer term cycles. We're late in the shorter term cycles. We are late in the fiat currency cycle. And the later you get, the more volatile it all gets, right? Also, since the events of the past few years, most of the data is now seemingly fake. I played a clip on my channel the other day where they stood up and said that's not the definition of the recession.
Yeah.
And when you can't really trust the data anymore, when you can't really believe the people that are the talking heads anywhere, when you turn the news on and you don't know whether they're telling the truth or trying to push something else, I think people need to find answers elsewhere. So that's my interpretation, at least.
I think you're right on that one. I think the other thing is, as far as us as creators go, people look at our channels and think that maybe we're the experts on each subject. So with Camel, obviously with stocks and Bitcoin, all that lot, and even with me when I'm watching you, I sort of think, okay, what information can you give us? And we have to realize that all of these, you know, are not necessarily manipulated, but in a way manipulated in so many ways by so many people so high up and bigger than us in what they're doing, that there are no real answers as such. We can only learn from a bit of experience and try and pick up things from there. And even with gold and silver, I'll get comments or I'll get messages. What do you think about this coin? Or what do you think about gold and all this? And, you know, you've got to remember, being very honest, I've only been stacking or collecting for a year and a half. And yes, I've learned a lot in that time, but by no means am I an expert. But unfortunately, being that we're creators, people do look at us and rely on us for information, and we have to be very careful in what we say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you find, Cal, I mean, first of all, congratulations on probably the quickest I've seen anyone almost get to 10,000 subscribers.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, mate, no problem at all. I feel really honoured that I've been there from 500.
Yeah, you have. I still remember the days when you commented. I think you still do comment on most of them, but I can remember you commented on every video for about 400 consecutive days.
I know.
And you used to say, I'll keep going until you're at 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah,
so,
then I carried on anyway. But
yeah,
obviously you're getting a lot of input through your channel now. And are you finding people are looking to you for answers more than just giving out the information for people to go and find their answers themselves?
I think, to be honest, my interpretation of this is when things break out to new all-time highs, it attracts new people, right?
Yeah.
So since the stock market is at all-time highs, Bitcoin is about to be, it is in pretty much every currency apart from the dollar, and it has printed, although it didn't spend very long, it did spend, you know, some time above the all-time high. It did create a new all-time high. We got gold breaking out to all-time highs, and all of this draws eyes into the space. And so I think when new eyes come into the space, they're inexperienced. They don't really know, you know, what can be expected, what can't be expected. And I think that's where the answers, they want answers because they don't realize answers are not really attainable. So it's kind of like, the analogy would be like setting sail over a long distance cruise or whatever. Ideally, you want to know the path ahead of time. You want to know the route. You want to know what the weather's going to be like. You want to know you're not going to get caught in big storms and swells, right? But with the markets, you just set off, okay?
Yeah.
Set off with no map, no compass, not knowing what the weather is, nothing but a parrot on your shoulder. And then you have to try and deal with it as you're, you know, going deeper and deeper out into the ocean. So I think people think that there can be this sort of definite roadmap. And what Cobra said, I don't know if it was off camera or on camera, but right at the start, when you said about, I said it could go up, down, or sideways pretty much, right? And that's true, it can, right? It could go up if nothing changes, right? And then if something changes tomorrow or in a week or in a month, then it could be a drastically different situation. So it's always ever evolving. And I think that's what it is. I think just, if you've been here a while, the longer you're here, you learn to relinquish control over that sort of thing. You learn to take it one day at a time.
Sure.
You learn to zoom out, understand what you hold, you know, and then it's a lot easier, right? It's a lot easier to stomach if you know what you hold and you know why you hold it. But if you've only just shown up and you paid the all-time high price and then you check and it's just gone down every day for the last 5 days, then suddenly you think, wait, that's not what I signed up for. And and I think that's where people go looking for the answers, right?
I think you're absolutely right. How many times have we all done that, even with gold and silver? And you know, I think when I started at a very high on silver. And after about a month or two, I was like, hang on a minute, like, why is it dropping and dropping and dropping?
Yeah.
I think the other thing is, again, with YouTube, it's a source of information for a lot of people on a lot of things. If you want to find out how something works or whatever, we look up a review on that thing. it's a very similar type of thing. If you're getting into Bitcoin, a lot of what I learned, say, about Bitcoin was by watching videos on Bitcoin on YouTube. And so YouTube is like the encyclopedias in a way of back in the day. The only difference is you have so many different opinions about one thing. You've got to really weed out the rubbish from the good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Very nice too. So as a rule, what we can ascertain from that, and I can definitely say the markets are just, you get up one morning, you go for a walk through the market and it can all change. Is that a simple explanation to it all? And maybe observe what's actually going on the day to try and work out what's going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it is. It goes back to what I was saying about being where we are in the cycle as well. You know, like you could think of the whole thing as a house of cards, and we just keep building it higher and higher. And that does not mean we cannot add many, many, many more stories to the house of cards. But it does mean, you know, the higher up you build it, the more susceptible it is to coming tumbling down. And I think people can see that now. That's how late we are in the cycle. Even people that weren't paying attention, they're now suffering major inflation. They're now seeing things like CBDCs. They know their mortgage interest rate is double what it was a few years ago. And the system it's more obvious now, even to non-investors, that something is broken, right? Or something is about to break or potentially could break in the future. And I think all of that is just because we're so late in the cycle.
Yeah. When you say we're so late in the cycle, can you just explain that in a very, like you're talking to a 5-year-old?
Well, there's multiple cycles at play. There's like 40 and 80-year stock market boom bust cycles.
Okay.
And we're late in those. There's also it's approximately 80 to 100-year fiat currency cycle,
All right. Okay.
where they birth a new fiat currency and it starts off backed by something, whether it's gold or silver or something else. And then they take it off the backing. And then eventually they print it into oblivion until eventually it suffers hyperinflation and is replaced by a new world reserve asset. And that's like an 80 to 100-year cycle. And we're late in that. You know, we're late in the stock market cycle. We're late in the debt super cycles. Even the smaller term or medium term, like the real estate cycle, I think is 18.6 years on average. We're late in that as well. We're late in the 4-year cycles for the stock market. You know, there's all of these cycles at play, and we just kind of happen to be at that point in time where we are late. We're late. And the last time we were, I mean, I'm by no means suggesting we're going to have a Great Depression, but the last time we were sort of this late in the cycle was back in 1928. And then, of course, we had that Great Depression in 1929.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's coming this time around. I'm not saying, you know, it's going to repeat just like it did. But that's kind of where we are. You know, we haven't had anything like that since 1929. That's quite a long time. So there could certainly be a decade left. But, you know, like I say, if you zoom all the way out in the scheme of things, we are late in these cycles.
Well, it feels like something has to break soon, especially as far as fiat currency goes and all that sort of stuff. And we can see the build up from all the governments across the world with CBDCs and what they're trying to achieve there. It's just when they press that button to say, okay, now we've got to let it go.
Yeah, that's very true. My great analogy is from a 5-year-old. So what you're saying is like you've got a sack of sweets and every day you go out to get one, and now we're beginning to notice the sack is almost empty.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm a bit of an idiot, but I can understand it when I'm looking at it from a 5-year-old's point of view. Sorry. Okay, cool. So I'm into precious metals. Cobra's into precious metals. Obviously, you're into precious metals, Camel.
Yep.
Are precious metals going to now finally play a big part that so many of us have wanted, hopefully, to happen, and so-called protect whatever wealth we put into it? I'll ask you, Cobra, first, because you're the big the big UK metal man.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that. But
just your opinion, mate.
Yeah, look, we can see some major things going on with gold for sure. And I think personally, I feel it's probably overdue. And I can see gold rising now at a steady level, and we will see dips. It's not that we're not going to see a dip as far as I'm concerned. We're nearly at £1,700 an ounce at the moment. And I think we were having a little chat about this before. We were hovering at the 1600s, knocking down to even 1500 at the points and 1496 and all that. And so we were sort of hovering between 1550 up to 16. And I think now we're moving forward to where we're going to hover between 1650 and 17. And maybe even break through to 17 and slightly go up. And I think over a period of time, we've often seen with silver and gold that when we have problems in the economy, we do see gold rising up because people don't trust what's going on with governments and normal money. And so they start putting it into gold. But the governments also do so many things to make it hard for you with taxes and everything else, that we've got to be careful with that as well and how we move it about. And now with the CBDCs or even with Bitcoin and all that, there's other places for people to invest. So we've got to watch that, as in how much of the money that people had would still be put into gold and how much will be split between gold and, say, Bitcoin, for instance. Silver is a very funny one for me. I've often said, and I may be totally wrong at this, and I'd love to hear your opinions on it, but I think with silver, because it is such an industrial metal, they can't allow it to go too high for the simple reason that it would affect the economy in so many ways. So all the big manufacturers who use silver in their products, and it's used in so many products, would find that their prices were rising majorly, which would affect the end user in what they buy, which would then affect inflation again. So yes, silver I can see rising a little bit, but I have always been very dubious about how much it can do. And I may be totally wrong about that. There's a lot of talk out there saying that, it will hit $30 and then $50 and all that lot. And it deserves to, don't get me wrong. The balance between gold and silver is way out at the moment. The comparison between the two. But I'm still dubious about how far silver can go compared to gold.
Cool. Camel?
I think, yeah, you're more or less right. Silver is going to do numbers. I'm sure of that. But silver's much more of a speculative trade, I think. So gold will do gold things for a while, and then eventually people will realize when it's quite late that gold is doing gold things, and then they kind of hop into silver. Silver gets this big pump and dump. And I think I said before to you, CPM, like I could see it going $300, $400, $500 an ounce at the peak, but it will only stay there for a couple of weeks at the most, right? And then it'll be all the way back down again. So I definitely am super bullish on silver. I hold quite a lot of physical silver. But gold,
and
I
you
think,
can see it going that high to 300-400 an ounce.
Yeah, but let me be clear, right? Gold will, in my opinion, if this breakout is for real, and the way it works is the longer we're above the prior all-time high, the more statistically significant it becomes. So we are still susceptible to rolling over and this being a big fake out, and everyone will be really upset about gold if that happens, right? But if this is for real, we should continue to print higher highs and higher lows. That should go on for a while. And then what we should see is a good 7 or 6 years at least of higher highs, higher lows of uptrend in gold. That is what I expect to see from this breakout that we're currently experiencing. Will there be some nasty shakeouts along the way? Yes, there always is. But if this is for real, as I believe it is, if the breakout is really a breakout, which I believe it is, then I expect to see gold just enter an uptrend and stay there for 5, 6, 7+ years before getting a significant pullback into an 8-year cycle low. And then I think there's a very good argument to be made that it maybe even goes on another 8-year cycle to the upside. So that's what I see from gold. Big bull market, big up only for at least the rest of this decade if this breakout is for real. And even if it's not for real, I suspect we roll over, chop around a bit, and then it comes, later in the year. So I think that it's either now or it's very soon. I lean on a balance of probabilities that this is a real breakout and we really are about to move straight up to 2,500 before a significant pullback. And even then, we're going to print higher lows. And like I said, multiple uptrend, higher highs, higher lows. Silver, on the other hand, will probably just explode to $30, chop around, and then roll over, right? Do nothing. Maybe it'll pop back up and trade around $30. Maybe it goes to 30 and then 50, and then all the way back down again. right? But whilst gold, my point is, whilst gold is going to be in an uptrend in a bull market that spans probably to the end of this decade or as late as 2033, I expect silver is mostly going to do not a lot, right? But then right at the end of the cycle, when we get gold to $10,000-$15,000 an ounce, which is my conservative targets for the end of this whole gold bull market, I do expect to see massive speculation come into silver, and that's when I think it fires off to these ridiculous numbers, $300, $400, $500 an ounce. But again, we're talking about essentially a pump and dump here, right? An explosion up there in 6, 12, 18 weeks max, and then it spends probably 2 weeks at multiple hundreds of dollars a coin, an ounce. I mean, and then it'll probably be all the way back down again. It'll probably crash 50, 60, 70% off of that $300 or $500 high. And again, it will be trading around doing not a whole heap of anything. So it's going to look like a speculative bubble. Like I said, gold, I expect to enter a true bull market. And ultimately, that is just a process that what we observe here with silver is it becomes a speculative bubble pop, essentially. It inflates and explodes to the upside, and then it pops and it comes back down as rapidly as it goes up.
That's cool.
I agree.
I'm sure Cobra, sorry, Cobra. I'm sure Cobra's just dropped on the floor and he's going, yes, 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 yes. And I want to be Cobra's wife now. No, seriously. Sorry, Cobra. Yeah, I just wanted to jump in with that. I've got a question for Camel after that, but go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I totally agree with gold. I've always been of the thinking, and I think it's partly because of my culture as a Sikh. You know, we're always taught from even young, get gold, get gold, get gold. And a lot of it is done in jewelry, and it's always 22 karat gold. But with the bullion being 24, I obviously went into that. And I've always been strong that gold will always increase, sometimes at a slower rate, sometimes at a quicker rate. I do also fear, though, that if silver does go the way you're saying, even for that little bubble, that when it comes to the point where it may be $200, $300, $400 or pounds an ounce, people who physically hold silver will think, yeah, I'll get rid of it. And you will find every bullion dealer going, I'm not buying. And so you're stuck with it, and then it drops down again anyway.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to sell at that price because so many people are used to the prices it's been. And so when it comes to try and dump your silver, yeah, look, I've made massive profits. And where CPM is saying, yeah, I'd be well excited for that, which I would for silver because I hold a great deal of it. But how would you actually get rid of it when all the bullion dealers go, well, no, I'm not buying at that price? And even on the private market, people are going to go, no, I'm not paying that sort of money because we're not used to it.
Yeah, it's a good point. And you may or you may not get lucky, right? You may or you may not be able to sell it. And if you can't, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to suggest. Maybe if it's trading at 300 an ounce, you can find someone that will pay 150. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. So you can pull in a good profit on what you paid for it if you bought it in these times, but not necessarily the actual price it's going for at the time. I agree.
Yeah, I'm just looking at. I've got a chart in front of me, right, and it shows that in the just at the end of 1979, silver went from about $8 up to $50 for the first time, and it took just 113 days to go from $8 to $50. But then, just 90 days later, it was all the way back down at $11.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is kind of what I was alluding to. That's kind of what I would expect to see, right? I think it can pop to 30. I think it can trade 30 for a while. I think it can pop to 50 before having a big crash. And then a whole heap of nothing will happen. And then eventually, once gold gets near its ultimate top, I could see this huge, explosive bubble in silver that takes it as high as 300. But I think within 90 days, we could be back down at 50 or even less again, right? So I mean, I don't know. Can you find someone to buy it? Maybe, hopefully. But yeah, you do make a good point. There probably will be a lot of metal dealers that sit there and go, nah, no thanks. We'll wait 90 days.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's been seen before where bullion dealers have actually turned around and go, no, I'm not buying. And you're stuck with your silver. But you're right. I mean, if it went to 300 and you offered it out at 150, you're still making a good profit. And hopefully you're managing to shift a bit. But I think if it goes to 300, you're going to find it very hard to be selling. I mean, who's going to pay 300 for an ounce of silver?
True. The other way to look at it, though, is if that is driven not by speculation and greed, and instead is driven by a collapse of a dollar and the end of the fiat currency system, then people will probably have to pay that. So there's a difference there, right? If the dollar was to collapse and a loaf of bread was to cost $50, then $300 silver, that's pretty much par for the course at that point. So
yeah, I get that. I get that. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anyone should be hoping and praying that we see
No.
we see a dollar collapse just so that we can have $300 silver. But we can't rule it out, right? If they continue to print and they keep doing more and more printing each time, then it's certainly a possibility. It's a non-zero probability that we could see the dollar be inflated that far.
But then if you're paying £100 a loaf of bread, then what is the actual value of that silver you've just sold for 300? Because everything has gone up in price anyway.
Yeah, 100%. So then your returns are significantly lessened.
Yeah.
But in that scenario, at least you could sell for 300. It's not the same $300 as you say, but you could sell for 300.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Can I put my hand up?
Yeah.
Go.
Thank you. I do it. I'm loving this because I thought, I used to it, just going to crack on, and I can sit here like a little kid, really enjoying it. I've got a couple of questions before you get too far down that rabbit hole. While she was talking about the reality of being able to get rid of your gold or silver during those sort of high prices, there's a question: what from an outlet point of view, would you say, would it be easier if you held it in paper version or physical version?
I don't want it in paper.
Yeah, I know. But what's the easiest out? If you've got a small time delay on selling, would it be
probably
easier?
let's assume that there's no systemic collapse or seizing of assets or any of that, then it's probably easier to exit the paper gold, right? You just log in during the open hours of the stock market and hit the sell button.
Yep.
And that's probably the same for silver. You could probably actually get $300 an ounce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. In pretty much any quantity. Because they can't presumably they can't turn the sell button off if it's paper silver or an ETF.
I wouldn't have thought so. There's so many questions around it, but
I would by the time we get to this point in the cycle, I don't think you want to have any kind of fiat instrument or counterparty risk. That has always been my hypothesis for probably close to a decade now.
Mm.
And as time goes on, it gets closer and closer and closer to the realization that was right all along.
Okay, cool. Well, that brings me back to the question I was going to ask you before I asked that one. I've been following your I love the word hypothesis, whatever it is, with gold, because you've been going on about this for a little while now. And why and what's going to drive it, Camel? In your opinion, what's going to drive this 8-year possible bull cycle? What's in the back of your mind to say that can happen? What would be the process to drive that? What's the circumstances that could drive that?
It'd be a monetary reset.
Okay.
And it goes back to what I was saying right at the start, I think, with the currency cycles. They last about 80 to 100 years. Like I said, they start off backed by something, usually gold, or the pound is backed by a pound of silver. And then some time goes on and they take on debt and they need to service the debt. So they take the currency off the backing and now they just have paper money and an IOU. And now they can just print that into oblivion. By printing the money and inflating the currency, it makes the debt more serviceable. Eventually, the pony show, it goes on for a while. The currency loses all its value. We get to where we are now, where inflation is rife and nothing's backed by anything. And there's so much debt and they can never service it. Even if they print the currency into oblivion, they still can't service the debt. What are we at? Like 34 trillion in the US or something, and that's funded. Then you've got another 100 and something trillion unfunded, which is all people's pension and healthcare and all of that. So we're right at the end of this fiat currency cycle. And what happens is they typically, if we look back in history, they keep printing it until the currency dies. And then they launch a new world reserve currency and it starts all over again. So that means we go back to backing the currency by gold. and we have a gold back system for a while and it all works, right? So that's the hypothesis. The hypothesis is we're just going to do what we always do. We're going to inflate the currency to the point of being worthless, essentially. And then they're going to need to do some kind of monetary reset because there's no other way to service the debt. That monetary reset involves repricing gold higher and then backing the currency by gold. And that's
Could they back it with Bitcoin?
They could back it. They could.
So let's say CBDCs came in. Could it be backed by Bitcoin?
If CBDCs keep, yeah, I mean, in theory they could, but they're not going to. In my humble opinion, they're not going to. I would love it if they did. I would absolutely love it if they did, but they're not going to. Could Bitcoin form part of a basket of currencies? Yes, possibly. Right? Could Bitcoin play a part in that basket that ends up being the world reserve backing? Yeah, that could certainly happen. But I really don't think they're going to use Bitcoin to back it. I think Bitcoin has its place for sure, but I don't think.
Why do people like JP Morgan and BlackRock and all that lot, why are they stocking up so much on Bitcoin at the moment?
My honest opinion is they want to do what they did to gold and capture it. So it looks like this. You launch the ETFs, then you acquire a bunch of Bitcoin and you end up holding it. They're using Coinbase as the custodian. So eventually, when a bunch of people buy the ETFs and stuff, and they're making charges and they're charging fees, they're slowly but surely acquiring a huge amount of Bitcoin. Then the thing to look out for would be once they launch futures contracts on the spot ETF, and that enables them to short the thing and rehypothecate it. And then just like we see with more than one paper claim per ounce of gold in the gold and the silver market, right? Yeah. There's all these paper claims and there's not, they go 10 or 100 to 1 in some cases. This would enable them to do the same thing to Bitcoin. So that's what I think they're probably that's what their long-term game plan is. Now, whether they can pull that off or not depends entirely on the average holder and what price they're willing to part with their Bitcoin. If everyone that holds the Bitcoin supply right now, because over 70% of it's held by long-term suppliers, if they all say, nah, you're not having my Bitcoin ever, then this trick isn't going to work. But if they can keep squeezing the price higher and force people to become sellers and people get out of the way, then they launch the futures on the spot ETF. They could, in theory, do what they did with gold and silver and suppress it. And that could keep a lid on the price of Bitcoin for a very long time. And that is what I suspect their long-term strategy and game plan is, to keep a lid on it for some time. Now, as we're seeing with gold, that worked. They kept a lid on it for a while. And now gold is revealing, right? Gold is showing its true colors. Gold is going to do what gold is going to do. And so it doesn't mean that they can suppress the price of Bitcoin forever, but can they stop it just going up for 3 years and down for 1 and up for 3 years and down for 1 perpetually until it's hundreds of millions of dollars a coin? Yeah, they can certainly slow that down. And that's what I think their game plan is.
Okay.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah,
definitely.
But also you got to look at what they do, right? Have the central banks been sellers or buyers of gold in the last few years? They've been massive buyers. And so people that say, well, Bitcoin's going to displace gold, Bitcoin's going to be a part of the basket of the world reserve currency, is going to be the world reserve asset. Well, they weren't buying Bitcoin and putting that in their vaults, were they? They were buying gold, tons and tons of gold. So to me, that says they're not going to throw that in the ocean. That says they have got they're going to do what they've always done, which is inflate the currency, start all over again, back it to gold, and mark the price of gold up massively. If you use the current numbers for M2, that needs about $40,000 gold ounce to make all of the M2 covered by gold and a backing. And that's in today's money. If they keep printing it, gold's got to be higher. So I'm always hesitant to throw these numbers out there because people go, well, Camel's calling for $40,000 an ounce. That's not what I said. I said 10 to 15,000 is my conservative target. But if you're going to back M2 by gold, we get $42,000 gold.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so let's say they went to CBDCs, you'd be looking at an equivalent sale price of gold in the value on the market of CBDCs.
The CBDC thing gets a little bit more complicated, but it's kind of the same thing, right? So we hyperinflate the dollar, or just at least severely inflate the dollar. And eventually they go, this isn't working. We're never going to pay the debt back, even if we continue to inflate the dollar to zero. So they go, we need some kind of reset. So they hike the price of gold up and they back the dollar by gold. But this time around, instead of it being the normal dollar, the fiat dollar, they will back the CBDC dollar by gold.
Yes.
Right? So this time we've got a digital component, but overall, I don't think it's that much different. I think
Yeah.
mechanistically how it works is pretty much the same. It's just instead of having a fiat money, we're now going to have a CBDC instead of the fiat, right? And that is bad for the end user because CBDCs obviously have a bunch of tyranny and control mechanism that could be implemented, less privacy, all of that stuff. But ultimately, I think it looks roughly the same. We're still going to inflate the currency until the point where they go, well, we can't do this anymore. We're never going to pay the debt back. They still hike the price of gold up to some absurd number and then peg the new fiat currency, in this case, possibly a CBDC, to the gold. And then the whole thing repeats all over again.
And I know with what you just said with CBDCs and how there's so many tyrannical ways they can use it, basically. Don't you think that people will rebel against that if they make it too controlling? As in, yep, you can't buy meat because it's affecting the climate change, or you can't do this or you can't do that. And it gets to a stage that we can't actually live our lives. Do you think people would fight against that, or do you think they just accept it?
I honestly think they're going to try their best to bring this in and make it as dystopian as possible, but I do think they're going to fail. Yes, I don't think they're going to get away with it. I don't see how they could actually implement it and pull it off to the point where only the central bankers have control and everyone else is a slave. I don't see that they're going to need to. They're going to need so many politicians to just blindly walk into that. They're going to need so many high-level sort of military and government people to blindly walk into that. People are going to clock. People are going to realize, like, whoa, I don't want my family to live like this, right?
Yeah.
So I think, though, they kind of know they're not going to pull it off, but they don't care because when they try, say they try and their goal is 100% of the non-central bank population enslaved via CBDCs. If
and
they end up
20%, it's still something.
Yeah, that's 20% more than they had before, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I expect. That's how I expect it to go. I think they're going to try. I think they're mostly going to fail, but they will inflict damage. And we kind of saw this over the events of the last few years, right? They implemented a bunch of, restrictions and tyranny and blah, blah, blah. For the most part, most of us are here now and not much has changed, right? But there are certainly some people that had travel restrictions at the time. There are certainly areas of life that are more restrictive and are subject to more scrutiny. There are people that lost their jobs because of certain things or they wouldn't comply with certain things. So again, they went for total domination. They ended up with 10 or 15% more control, but that was 10 or 15% that they were happy to have, right? They didn't have before it. So that's kind of how I think it's going to play.
Makes sense. Really does make sense.
Yep. And I think the people that hold the non-counterparty carrying assets like the gold, the silver, the Bitcoin, assuming you hold physical gold, physical Bitcoin on, cold stored, then I think those people have got much better hope than people that just hold nothing but paper or money in the banking system.
Mm.
Wow, I don't know what to say there. I think Cobra's probably, I want to marry him even more if these prices keep going up. I think
I don't hold that much, bruv.
Yeah, but at 40,000, you don't need to, right?
yeah, very true. Very true. If it goes to 40,000, I'm in a very good place.
Yeah, but I will say, for it to be at 40,000, what's the world going to look at in a financial sort of way now? Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say it'll probably be the have yachts and the have nots.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for doubt. Yeah, for sure. So interestingly, it's great sitting here listening. So going on this hypothesis of, hopefully I said that right, I'll probably get obliterated a bit in an hour's time, but with gold, this could be the possible start of seeing that transition. Would you say? What's going
transition
on now?
To a bull market?
Yeah,
I think so.
So gold. When we say gold, people within the marketplace are sniffing this out and thinking, is it time to just start to, push that exit plan a little bit more? Would you say? Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
What do you mean by exit plan? Sorry.
Exit plan to move into gold more, which I presume that's what's pushing the price up, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. Gold always knows something, right? Yeah. But I mean, objectively speaking, if you pull up a chart and you scroll all the way back to about September 2011, we were at $1,900 an ounce, right? 1910. And even now, we're only, what, $200 or less away from that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's early days. It's certainly early days. And gold moves quite slow, right? For the most part. But objectively speaking, it has, from the middle of 2020 until today, built a big base, a big 4-year base. And it has since then, over the last week or so, broken out of that base. Now, typically, when things break out of large bases, they enter new bull markets. That is what I believe is going on with gold. Again, as I said, the longer we're above, the more statistically significant it becomes. And I do think now seems to be the time. Why not now? Why not now?
I noticed something on the Silver Forum, which is a platform where people buy and sell gold and silver. And over the last year or so, you'd see bits of gold on there. Now, all of a sudden, where it's hit nearly £1,700, we are seeing so much gold on there, ounces of gold on there, which aren't selling so much, as in people are weary to buy it at that price. But I'm thinking, well, if we are going into a bull market with gold, then we should still keep buying, even though we're paying more than what we would have paid a year ago, let's say, or even 6 months ago. Would you say it's still time to keep buying?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reality is markets have a way of wearing everyone out and making them quit right before they reveal the direction, right? And we can see this with the ETF inflows and outflows. The gold ETF, the paper gold, has been, in terms of, you look at retail accounts, right? It's been outflows for 9 months consecutively. So for the last 9 months, your average Joe investor that holds gold in his pension account or his stocks and shares account has been dumping gold every month for the last 9 months. They are sick of holding it, right? Because all it's done really is go sideways since 2020, right? It might have traded up to 2,000-ish bucks, right? And then it made a low of about 1,600. But for the last 4 years, it has been stuck in this $400 range, going sideways. And even going back before that, it has, barely made it above that 2011 peak. And people are sick of holding it. They're looking at the stock market, and the stock market just keeps going up. They look at Bitcoin. They go, Bitcoin's done 300% in 12 months, right? Why am I holding this gold ETF, right?
Yeah.
And you can see that in the ETF outflows. And people will interpret this the wrong way. The non-traders will look at this and go, well, people don't want to hold gold, right? Blah, blah, blah. But this is fantastic, because this tells you all the people that are impatient, don't know what they hold, don't believe in what they hold, they're out. They've puked their position. They're just like, I can't be bothered with this. Put me in the stock market, put me in Bitcoin, put me anywhere that I don't have to suffer this sideways range for gold. And all that's left now is people that understand gold, people that believe in gold, people that want to hold gold, and they're not selling. So where's the sell side pressure going to come from, right? There's no sellers left. There's only buyers. And people don't like to pay all-time high prices. But if you ask yourself the question, how does gold keep going up without consistently making new all-time highs, right? You have to buy the highs because it's going to keep going up. So people don't like to buy things at all-time highs. And obviously, if you ever, we've all done it. We've all bought stock at the top and it's crashed, or we've all bought something at the top and it's pulled back and it doesn't feel good. But the reality is, when we get a 4-year base like we've had in gold since 2020, and now we're breaking out of that base, it's entered a bull market, in my humble opinion. And unless it trades back below $2,000 an ounce, then we're not invalidated. And the thesis for it to continue to move higher and higher and higher is absolutely valid. And so, I think there's nothing wrong with buying gold all the way up, right? If it's a true bull market, like I say, we're targeting 10K an ounce minimum, and I'm going to be buying all the way up. Yeah. Every time we see a cycle low, I'm going to be adding to my position. Every time I exit before a weekly cycle low, I'm going to be looking to exit that into physical gold. And when I think Bitcoin is topped, I'm going to be selling a huge chunk of my Bitcoin for physical gold, which I plan to hold for the rest of the decade. So I'm not saying I'm right. Of course, I get things wrong all the time, but that's been my plan. That's been my strategy. And I'm sticking to it for now, at least.
So if you're bullish on silver as well, would you be saying the same thing about silver, that we should be buying silver?
I am less inclined to focus on silver because gold is the big market, right? It's the big dog, and silver's kind of along for the ride. Now, I'm in a fortunate position that I hold a massive amount of silver that I accumulated much, much, much cheaper, much, much, much longer ago. I'm looking back here. I'm looking. Sorry, I'm just pulling up a chart trying to work out. You know, I've been buying silver at half the price it is now.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, a lot of my silver has been accumulated for at least 30-40% before below where we are now. I've held it for a long time, and you know, I've kind of got a physical, as far as I'm concerned, I've got enough physical silver. So will I take trades in my trading account on the way up? Yes, probably will. But am I going to be hyper focused on silver? Not really. And like I said, it goes back to that thing of silver will be speculative. It will be a big bubble. It will rip, but it will want gold to give it permission to first, right? So I'm going to be focused mostly on gold. Like I say, I've got a nice silver bag. I'm happy with that. But I think, and like I said, I'll be trading it. But in terms of the gold bull market, it is that. It is a gold bull market, and silver is more or less just along for the ride, in my humble opinion.
The very funny thing, CPM, is that we've come to a very similar conclusion. Myself and CPM talk a lot about gold and silver, and have basically come to a very similar conclusion, but just with the way we buy and sell our silver and gold. Both me and CPM both said that we're going to concentrate on gold this year and buy a bit of silver here and there, but not majorly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's good to know that you've come to the same conclusion via a different, different path. But I think also a point worth making here is, you know what I said earlier about the central banks have got vaults full of gold. Well, they don't have vaults full of silver as well, right? I'm sure they've got some silver exposure, but they haven't been, panic buying silver recently, right? And I think there's something to take from that. Now, that is not to say if you've been stacking silver, you should be panicking. All right, silver's going to be fine, but yeah, like I said, there's something in that when you look at what the central banks do, they buy gold. They don't buy tons and tons of silver.
Well, if you look at countries as well, I mean, even the countries, India has been buying masses of gold. Africa, the BRICS nations, especially, were buying a hell of a lot of gold over the last year or so.
Yep.
I've got to jump in.
Sorry, we've taken over your channel.
It's absolutely fine, mate. That's absolutely cool. But I think it's poignant. I don't know if Cobra remembers this. I think it was before Christmas. Might have been November last year sometime. I was in my kitchen. Cobra wasn't there. He was in his place before anyone thinks we're together. And I remember one of our infamous phone calls where I was like, for me, I was brainstorming what the best thing to do was and trying to understand where money goes when it's frightened. What's the real store of value here? As Camel knows, I like my Bitcoin, but I like to explore everything, and I don't know if you remember, Cobra. I think we had a massive chat about it, and I think the end conclusion was, where would you honestly feel safe at a physical level? And it was gold, was it not?
Absolutely.
Can you remember that conversation we had?
Yeah, and it was a massive conversation, and I kept saying, look, for me, it's always been gold. Yeah. And it always has, and I built up quite a nice amount of gold. I enjoy silver. I like silver. But if I'm really talking on a financial level, for me, it'll always be gold. I trust gold.
And I think we was looking at along the lines of, we was going through all the events that possibly could happen in the world. And we just thought, well, if you're sitting there with probably what the world generally thinks is probably the best store of value historically, then isn't that a good idea to have it?
Yeah, for sure.
So that sort of tied into your conversation, but I'm loving you two going for it. It's really cool.
Yeah, I can add to this. I can build on that because in terms of like the safety idea, I manage a smallish portfolio for my mum, like a private pension, if you want to call it that. And it's heavily weighted in gold, because I asked myself the question, right? If you're a younger person, you can afford to take more risk. You can afford to weather more volatility. You've got a longer term horizon. But if you're an old lady that needs her money and can't afford to lose it, right? Like my old mum, then I want less volatility, more safety. And that, of course, is provided by gold. So my mum's pension has been heavily allocated in gold. and it's done really well. It's not as exciting as Bitcoin. She does have a small piece of Bitcoin, but yeah, generally speaking, you know, if it was an 18-year-old I was managing the money for, then it would be heavily weighted in Bitcoin and a smaller allocation to gold. But when you get older and you need that safety, then it becomes much more weighted in gold and less into Bitcoin.
Okay, cool. So I think we're all of the general opinion that gold is still a very good physical asset to try and own.
Yep.
Great.
So there's a question for you both. What message would you give to people that, and I'm going to tie in a couple of subjects here. We're in tough times at the moment. Not a lot of people got a lot of money. Some people have got a lot of money. But I would say as a rule, most of the younger generation out there are finding it difficult. How would you encourage? Oh, it's a dodgy word to say encourage, because it's like almost like saying like we need to, like, let's put it in the way. If you had young sons, which I have obviously, but in their 20s, well, how would you encourage them to put that, you know, would you encourage them to put that little bit into a little bit of gold? Because a lot of guys would just look at it and go, oh, I can't afford an ounce of gold, and I can't afford this, and I can't afford that. But it seems like probably now's the time to discipline yourself and just put that little bit away if you can. How would you go about that? Tough question.
Camel, do you want to go first?
Yeah, because I don't actually have much to say on this, apart from I think a good rule of thumb is if you haven't got gold, then you don't have any chips at the table. That's what I think. Yeah. So if you're young and you can't afford to buy an ounce of gold or half an ounce of gold, I understand, right? But you probably can afford to put something away.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I hope. And if you can afford to put something away, then save up 3, 4, 5, 6 months, however long it takes, but save up, buy yourself an ounce of gold. Because once you've got an ounce of gold, then you have some chips at the table. That's what I think. And then from there, once you've built the base layer, then you can worry about the other stuff. Then you can worry about risk and so on and so forth.
I appreciate that, because it's a tough question I just asked there, and we're all a little bit possibly, oh God, I can't say what that, I can't say this, I can't say that. And it's an important message, because I believe there's some people out there that can be a little bit lonely and scared and frightened, and you know, they want to try and understand and learn. And I suppose my constant battle is trying to find that definitive way of putting it across to people without sounding like I'm giving them advice, because that's can be a bit of a dangerous game in this day and age. So that's why I asked the question. I know it's tough and it's hard, and what we can do privately is what we do privately. It's a bit different when you're on the air. So yeah, sorry, I just want to jump in there.
Well, I agree with Camel, but I will elaborate on it slightly. And again, like what you're saying is exactly right, CPM. You know, we can't give advice. So whatever I say now is my opinion. And, you know, people take from it what they want. Look, there are many, many young people out there with very different situations. So my son is 26. He's got 3 kids. And life's a struggle. You know, he works really hard. He's got a lot of bills to pay, and he doesn't have a lot of spare money. And there'll be other young'uns without those responsibilities who are earning and can afford more. Now, yes, I would ideally guide people towards gold. And even if it's fractional, I know you pay a higher premium on fractional, but you can buy 1/20th, so you can buy 1/10th, quarters, halves, so whatever you can afford. And a lot of people can't actually save for 6 months. And I know back in the day, Camel, I was one of them. You know, if you asked me, I was earning well, but if you asked me to put money away, I'll be like, yeah, but there's a sports car out there I can buy, or there's a motorbike I can buy, and that would be where my money went. Now, I would say to people, look, if you can buy a 10th, you know, you're looking at 175, 185, 190, whatever, and maybe a bit more now because gold's gone up, then buy that in a month. But some people can't even afford that. And so I do say to them, look, if you even start off with an ounce of silver at £30 or £25, an ounce once a month, and that's all you can do, it's better than doing nothing. So, you know, if you sit there and go, I haven't got any money, and so you invest in nothing at all, you haven't achieved anything. But if you start off and you're even buying 1 or 2 ounces of silver, because that's all you can afford, and then maybe later on you can swap it up for a bit of gold, then at least start with that. It's something. And I do believe that often you find your habits change. So, you know, if you start with that, even though it may not be the best thing because gold would be better, it changes the way you think about things as you see that pile grow. And even with myself for the last year and a half of stacking collecting, it changed my views, and CPM knows this. You know, I've got a few cars and a really expensive motorbike, and I don't want none of it now. I have no interest in it. You know, all these material things are now taking a backseat compared to what I'm trying to achieve to pass on to my kids and also for my pension. So I agree. Yes, if you can afford gold or if you can save to buy gold, then do that. But if you can't save, at least pick up a small amount of silver and you'll see your spending and saving habits change.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely wise. I think that's absolutely the right thing to do. Yeah, absolutely. And if you can't afford an ounce of silver, you can buy £10 worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah, it doesn't matter,
Right.
but something. Do something.
And what you said about habits changing is absolutely right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. I've observed that in multiple people, friends and family that I don't know if coached is the right word, but or advised or whatever the word is, but I've observed that from people that were living paycheck to paycheck, even though they didn't have kids, right? They're living at home with their parents, they're earning plenty of money, no financial responsibility, and they're still living paycheck to paycheck because they need trainers, clothes, whatever else it is. And they always start small, and then very quickly they say to me, "Oh, Camel, I can't believe it. I don't want to spend the money anymore. Like, I can't believe I was throwing away all this wealth because I thought I needed new trainers, another pair or whatever." Right. And so you're absolutely right. What you said about building habits, and it changes the way you look at money. And just get off zero, right? Get off zero.
Yeah.
And before long, it does snowball, it does compound, and it does make a big difference.
Absolutely right. And this is the thing, you know, again, myself, CPM, and I'm sure many other people have often said, well, I wish when I was 25 I was doing this, I would be a multimillionaire by now. And it's absolutely true, but I didn't. And so there's no late time to start, for sure. And you really, you know, a lot of this stuff like the cars and this and that is show. At the time I didn't think it was show. I want a nice car, I work really hard, why shouldn't I have it? But what for? I can drive anything and get from A to B. It's not going to improve my life. And those big spends of 50, 60,000 pounds on a car or more is money that is just year on year depreciating. Whereas hopefully with gold and silver, year on year, it'll appreciate.
Yeah, and then when you buy those other cars at the top end, they don't start when you need them to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I 100% understand. Yeah, 100%.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Okay, we've done the physical bit to death for an hour. Let's move on to the virtual bit. Bitcoin.
Oh,
Yeah.
Bitcoin. Now, Cobra knows what I'm all about with Bitcoin, and I think it's pretty evident that I think Camel Finance likes Bitcoin. Would that be true?
I think you could say that.
Okay. It's quite interesting actually, because I think we've all agreed that probably out of Bitcoin, silver and gold, although it's all speculation and it's all our own opinions, I'm going to have to keep saying this on this video. There's a place definitely for silver. There's a place definitely for gold, for sure. I think that's hit home to all of us individually. What about Bitcoin? Are we going to see, is this really going to be an asset that can make a difference? And what will that difference be?
CPM, Camel, over to you.
Yeah.
Okay. It absolutely can. It certainly can make a difference. But I think I've been really struggling with this lately, right?
Yeah,
because
I know you have.
on paper, Bitcoin is the exit. it's the only exit.
Mhm.
Right. And if you can just buy some Bitcoin and hold on to it and cold store it, it's the only thing that can't be confiscated. It carries no counterparty risk. There's nodes in space. So even if the internet goes down, right, it can still keep going there. It's the only secure database on the planet. It's the only code that's completely immutable. It's completely, you can't mess with it, right? You cannot mess with it. It's the hardest form of money the world has ever seen. Gold is the hardest form of money we've ever found, but Bitcoin we created, right? And it improves on so many of the flaws that that gold has. And Bitcoin is really apex predator money, right? Until, and I can't get away from this, until BlackRock showed up and launched ETFs. And I'm sure those futures are coming on the ETFs, as I said earlier. And suddenly we're in this weird situation where I am less certain of Bitcoin than I have been in the past. Now, I know a lot of people think, oh, the ETFs are here, number go up, right? And they're super happy about that. But to my mind, this is not, this is potentially teetering on the edge of being more captured by Wall Street than most people want to admit. Now, I hope that's not the case, right? And I'll say this. I plan on dumping the vast majority, if not all of my Bitcoin when I think the top is in for this cycle. And I plan on reallocating that all of that capital back at the next 4-year cycle low. But when I plan to reallocate that capital back, and I plan to sort of guide this on my channel near the time, it's a few years off yet, admittedly, but I think people have done it wrong, right? If you've got an exchange and KYC and they've got a picture of your driving license, and that's how you acquired your Bitcoin, then you haven't really exited the system, right? And I'm guilty of this myself. But next time when I reallocate to Bitcoin, when I reacquire it at the bear market lows, I am going no KYC. I lost it in a boating accident. I don't have any Bitcoin, right? I think that is going to be the major difference. You're going to have to learn to develop those technical skills to be able to exit the matrix, because otherwise you're going to hold this Bitcoin that's KYC'd and they know you got it, and they can what's the word? Blacklist those transactions. They can't censor it. They can't freeze it. They can't stop you moving it, but they can put a mark on it that says if he ever converts it to fiat currency, then we can see that. And so the whole idea of Bitcoin is it's anonymous, censorship resistant. But yet, if we've got KYC and pictures of our driving license, is it really censorship resistant? Is it really anonymous? The answer is no. So I think there is hope, right? But the technical barrier to entry is quite high. Okay, so as we get to that 4-year cycle low, I plan on buying way more Bitcoin than I've got now. I plan on exiting all the profit I have and waiting for a big crash and then allocating it all back. But this time around, I'm going anonymous. I'm disappearing, and they're not having it. So that's my thoughts.
Is that easier said than done though? If they're,
no, it's quite easy. It's quite easy.
Okay, so
I say it's quite easy.
This is my naive understanding. So please forgive me if anything I say sounds stupid and it's like you don't know what you're talking about.
No, not at all.
So I obviously got into Bitcoin with the help of CPM. I didn't understand it at all. And instead of telling me anything about it, he said, well, go and learn about it, which I really appreciate now because it made me understand Bitcoin, how it's formed, what it is. Because before I was just turning around like a lot of people out there and going, well, it's nothing. There's nothing there. What are you actually buying? You haven't got anything. It's out in the ether. It's in whatever,
Yeah.
And then when you start understanding how mining works and how there is a cost to producing Bitcoin in energy and all that sort of stuff, you think, well, okay, there is something there now. And then you understand how limited it is and how over a period of time we know exactly when it's going to hit its limits and all that lot, so it can't be affected by inflation. You start thinking, well, actually, there's something real here and something really, really good and positive for the Joe Public people,
Yeah.
Then you start looking at what BlackRock are doing and what you've explained and a few things, and you think, yeah, okay, so now we have some issues here. Mm-hmm. Then you look at cyber attacks, and I know you said there are nodes up in space, and this is looking at the worst case scenario of a world war. So my sort of thinking on it is, and please, again, bear with me, if we had a massive world war, and we knocked out all our electrics and we went back into 100 years ago type of civilization, even where we haven't got the technology we've got now, the nodes in space aren't going to matter because we won't even be able to access them, and therefore gold and silver still holds more value than Bitcoin. in a survivalist thing. Let's come out of that survivalist thing and just come into normal times. Yeah, I think Bitcoin is very useful. I'm learning more about it. I have this leisure here, which I've been talking to CPM for ages about putting my actual Bitcoin into cold storage now, because I understand you shouldn't keep it in Coinbase and all that sort of stuff, third party risk and all that. And I haven't got around to doing it. But don't you have to buy off a third party? Like, don't you have to buy it from, say, Coinbase and all that lot? So when you say don't go KYC, how are you going to do that? How do you buy it? Because they're all being put under legislative things that they have to ask for this type of information to sell it to you.
Yeah. Okay. So I think, first of all, I'll back up just a tiny bit and say the idea that if we go full bore apocalypse, right, and there's no internet, there's no electricity, then yeah, Bitcoin's not going to work, right? But then your gold is not really very divisible either, right? What are you going to do? Like saw a chunk off the end, and you know what I mean? So,
but they did that. They did that before with coins. They would chip gold off
you
coins.
are right.
With it.
You are right. And in this scenario, it's probably better to have something physical in your hand than a piece of data on a blockchain that you won't be able to access if there's no internet or power. I would make the argument that if we actually went to that, if it got that severe, then we're probably gonna have bigger problems than to worry about money. That would be my idea. Now,
absolutely, but as we overcome those problems and come back to some sort of normality without
having a physical, then I agree.
Something.
Yeah, so then I agree. Then in that scenario, then having some silver and some gold and something to barter with is probably better than having Bitcoin. If we assume the power does eventually come back, then arguably, Bitcoin is fine. To answer your question about like the whole no KYC Bitcoin stuff, it is significantly harder than downloading a app on your phone like Coinbase and then sticking a few details in, transferring some money and buying Bitcoin. You need to use a peer-to-peer exchange. You typically have to go through a bunch of other hurdles and technical things, but realistically, the process is kind of the same, right? You're still going to create an account. It's not going to be a, regulated account. You are still going to buy Bitcoin with fiat. It's just the fiat's kind of going to disappear somewhere, and they're only going to be able to see that the fiat disappeared. They're not going to really know where it went or why. And then there's sort of it's not a trusted third party. It's like a mathematical piece of code that operates as the trusted third party that makes sure that your money doesn't get stolen. The Bitcoin is returned for the value that you provide. And ultimately the process looks the same, but there are ways around it where you are essentially transacting peer-to-peer. Another way to do this is, say, for example, you mentioned you had some motorbikes. You could decide that you want your motorbike serviced and put an advert out for someone to pay you in Bitcoin, right? And then they could just show up, or you could pay them in Bitcoin. Sorry, they could service your bike. You could send them some Bitcoin. That Bitcoin has no traceability, right? As far as they're concerned, Cobra bought it, but now Cobra doesn't have it anymore, right? So there are always ways around it because it is a peer-to-peer network. This is how it was designed to work. It was designed to be peer-to-peer, untraceable, anonymous money. And as soon as we start attaching driving licenses or passports and KYC documents and proof of income to our Coinbase accounts, then suddenly we lose this element of it. And so I have made this mistake myself. A large portion of my Bitcoin is KYC Bitcoin. And I don't think that's a problem for now because I'm mostly just trading the cycle, right? I got an allocation at the lows. I'm riding it up. I'm hoping to hop out at the top. And then when I hop out at the top, I'm going to take some profit and hopefully hop back in at the bottom again. But this time around, like I said, when I hop in at the bottom, I'm going to be trying to actually exit the system. I don't want any traceability. I don't want any KYC Bitcoin. And I will have to pay some premiums for this, but there are certainly ways around it.
And if we went to CBDC, sorry.
I was just about to say, I'll sell you some, Camel.
Yeah, there you go.
And if we went to CBDCs, and so if CPM was going to sell you some, you'd have to pay him in CBDC, which is traceable. Would that affect it?
Yeah, that would make it very difficult because obviously you're paying with a traceable form of money.
Yeah.
Or we can do a deal. Or we can do a deal for gold off the back of his yacht.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So, I mean, there's always a way around it, but I do think that the thing everyone got wrong, including me this cycle, is everyone was so willing to upload a picture of their driving license and KYC themselves, right? I mean, there's other ways to do this. There's plenty of exchanges out there that will let you withdraw up to about 2 Bitcoin a day, non-KYC. So you can I mean, you have to be a trader to be able to pull this off, but there are exchanges that will let you deposit a Bitcoin and then trade it. And every now and again, you can pull up to 2 Bitcoin a day out with no KYC. So there are plenty of different avenues to do this. I can send you guys, if you're really interested, I can send you a bunch of details about this and a website that'll explain it all. But I think this is the thing that most people have gotten wrong. As we move towards this whole Wall Street capture and ETFs, I think we're moving further and further away from exit the system that Bitcoin was supposed to be.
Can I ask you something else? When you say, you're hoping to dump a lot of your Bitcoin when you get to the top, and then buying again when it drops, is it not a thing that BlackRock and all that, like, as people sell, are buying up more and more, which will make it harder for us to buy?
Yeah, but price moves to liquidity, right? So for now, the aggregate effect is there's more buying than selling. And so the price has to move higher, because only when the price is higher do you motivate new sellers to come and sell their Bitcoin for those higher prices. And then the inverse is true on the way down. So there will come a point when the ETF buyers don't want to buy Bitcoin anymore. They'll be sitting there, whatever the number is, 100K, 200, 300, 400, there'll be a number where people go, I don't want to pay that. Kind of like the silver discussion we were having earlier,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
There's a price where people go, I'm not paying $300 for an ounce, right?
Yeah.
So there'll be a price where people go, no thanks. And then at that point, the market generally tops, we see the pullback. And then as it starts to correct, more and more people go, okay, well, I've made profit, get me out. I'm not tolerating any more losses. I'm not giving back any more profit. And so then it becomes the same thing, price move into liquidity, but in the other direction now we have to keep lowering the price, right? The price has to keep crashing to find and motivate buyers to step in and buy the market.
Got it.
Now, what the really interesting thing is about this recording,
yeah,
is that I can just go to the toilet and you two keep talking.
I really need to go. I've been waiting for you. I didn't know you snuck out.
I've snuck out twice during the last half an hour. I just, when I come back, you start still talking away. Yeah, mate, go to the loo. Yeah,
all right, I'll be back.
Yeah, of course.
The CPM, where do you think then, or how long do you think it will be until we sort of need to look at Bitcoin and say, okay, now's the time to sell? Do you think it'll be a year, 6 months, 2 years, 10 years?
Okay,
because I know you're quite adamant to hold your Bitcoin.
This is a subject I want to talk about in a minute. I get a little bit oh God, as you know, buddy, I'm on the learning curve. I consider this all an apprenticeship. You won't believe how interesting I find this. Just used to talking about whatever, because it's re-emphasizing, it's regurgitating questions. Like your questions are reaffirming my mind. So that's why I'm really pleased that you're on and I can listen and
Thank you.
it's brilliant, dude. It's brilliant. And if that's good for me, and I've been in this for a while, that's got to be good for anyone that's just interested. So,
which is really what I wanted, that people who don't understand it will get the basic questions that they're all asking.
Yeah, for sure. This is a continuing learning curve for me, buddy. I can't believe that my process of mindset changes so quickly, but I think it's changing so quickly because of the information that I'm receiving is changing quickly as well.
Yeah.
So it's making me think, obviously, Camel's got his thesis, and that opens up a lot of thought processes through my mind, just like lots of other things that I watch and learn. So my long-term thesis that I may have had on Bitcoin even just a month ago, buddy, is changed with the aspect of more knowledge is a good thing, and it's made me think, okay, my exit strategy shouldn't be rigid. it's got to be flexible because the market is forever changing so rapidly at the moment. And
Yeah.
and that's the
Yeah, I agree.
that's the challenge I constantly find myself in. So hence that's why one of my videos very recently, I've re-explored my exchange of, is it still possible to get from Bitcoin to gold fairly easily and transfer that and receive the physical side of it. And I'm exploring that more and more because if my exit strategy needs to change, I want to be on top of that and learn and find the processes similar to what Camel was talking about with the KYC thing. I want to find out everything that I can do physically out there if I need to move things around within the realms of our British law to a degree, and use that as an advantage for myself. So it changes, mate. And the more information that I'm picking up and learning and sitting there and trying to, shut my mind out, and just having those quiet times just to reflect on what I've learned, what I've listened to, what makes sense, what makes logical sense, and then apply that into what my exit strategy wants to be, and it's just changing. Almost changing monthly at the moment because of information and because marketplace is changing.
Well, the funny thing is, even with our gold and silver, when we spoke a year and a bit ago,
Yeah.
when we were first talking about it, it was all about stacking up silver as much as we could.
Yeah.
And as we developed and learned,
Yeah.
we changed our way of thinking several times.
Yeah.
Several times. So it's exactly the same process, I believe, that you're going through with Bitcoin.
Yeah, for sure. It's just, I've never hidden this. It's not my main, but I would say it was my main portfolio has always been precious metals and Bitcoin. I'm not going to go into that allocation, percentage, but obviously I've got stocks and shares, and thankfully Camels educational channel has helped me sort of get my head around what I can do and what I can't do there, and that's been brilliant. But it's constantly changing, and I think that's a reflection of the times we're in at the moment. Information's changing so quickly, and that's making, sometimes my wife is the greatest example of this. She's going, now what you're doing? I thought you was doing this, and I'm going, yeah, but I've learned this. I've learned this now, and that makes sense now. I've learned this, and that goes into that plan of me thinking. I'm not just jumping out of one thing, jumping into a next. It's just those small, minute. Okay, I didn't think about that. Okay, now I'm going to think about that. What, like getting back to our conversation when I was in the kitchen, what could be that exit strategy if I need to? Do I need to start thinking about how I can move the value of this into that, to this, to that, to this, to that, and make that an advantage for me and my family. So yeah, it's I'm in my infancy of learning still.
CPM, can I
Yeah.
ask?
Yeah,
I
of
ask
course you can. Yeah.
And I want to know for you, Cobra, as well. But CPM, I thought when I was watching one of your videos the other day, there was
Yeah.
hints, and
Yeah.
I could have misinterpreted this. But no, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I thought there was hints of you second guessing your idea for gold. So I wanted to ask you about that. Did gold manage to wear you out a little bit? Were you in this place where you were thinking to yourself, "Oh, have I chosen the wrong thing?" Or was that more of a you come into the realization you want more gold and less silver, or did I completely misread all of this and actually none of that was the case at all?
Yeah, I think I remember you putting that on one of the comments, and I think I said, "Ooh, sorry, that wasn't what I wanted to come across."
Right.
I don't know, did you hear much of that conversation I just had with Cobra?
Yeah, all of it. Yeah.
All right, cool. It's for me in my infancy of learning. It's it's it it's trying to logically work out. I want to move on to another subject in a minute, which is going to be a part of what I'm trying to say here. When you start to learn the difference between what your head says and your heart says and your gut is saying to you, you get into a bit of a quandary sometimes between logical thinking and what I call real emotional heart thinking. And that for me personally puts me into a certain position sometimes to think I start to doubt myself because my head's saying one thing, because that's ruled by the 3D world that we live in. And yet my heart has just got that little bit of a gut thing saying, well, what are you doing? Shouldn't you be thinking about this? And you've got to believe in yourself a little bit more. So maybe that's how that come across in that video. And I didn't really explain myself properly because I'm quite a deep, Cobra knows I'm a very deep thinker.
Yeah.
And I think through my emails now that I'm quite a deep thinker, and I'm not just totally what goes on in front of me is the truth. I like to dig a little bit deeper and have a little bit of that core instinct that us humans should be using a little bit more of. And sometimes that can be a bit conflicting. And that probably comes across in my videos a little bit. Because probably maybe I'm a little bit too scared to really go down into that deep narrative of who we are really as a human being, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the reason I asked you the question originally, CPM, was about, back in the day when we talked, you were very firm on I'm holding my Bitcoin no matter what. Obviously that changes. And this is something I wanted to put to you, CPM. And I'm gonna tell you the figures on my Bitcoin and tell you what my thoughts have been, being a very new Bitcoiner, let's say, very new and really not understanding everything. So overall I've put in £8,500 into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Started at about £22, 22,000, and I was putting in until it went to about 32,000, and it's up to 14,000 at the moment. Now I know it was a one-off, but a few days ago we saw a massive drop very quickly in one day of 10,000, massive, and then within that same day it went back up, and I thought to myself, well, seeing that it's at 14,000 now, do I pull out the 8,500? And I spoke to CPM about a similar thing before. Put it in a bank and just leave it there until it drops again, and then reinvest that 8,500 and just keep the profit in there at the moment? Or do I just leave that 14,000 in there where it is, roughly 14,000 in there now for a while? I mean, are we talking it's going to keep going up? And I know you cannot say for sure, none of us can, but do you feel that it's going to go up for a little bit more, for a few months more, or a year? Or do you think that by doing what I'm thinking of doing, that would be a right move or not?
For me?
No, for Camel.
All right, okay. Can I quickly answer my opinion before
please do.
before you get a more professional opinion, because then I can grade that whether I've actually read the situation right personally. For me, this has been a dilemma for me right from when I first bought in back in the day when it was just going downwards all year. And we've spoke about this before, but I just had that similar thing that what I was explaining. Me and my son had this gut feeling that this made sense, and there's an outlet to it. We didn't understand what that outlet was at the time, but it just made sense for some reason. So on that journey, I've been asking those Cobra. I have asked those questions myself a zillion million times.
Right.
Do I not? Do I not? Do I not? Do I not? The biggest thing I've learned, and this is for me personally, is I relatively need some trust somewhere along the line in the decisions I make. And then from those trust decisions, if I'm making them from the right place, I've then got to go out there and learn in the logical 3D world whether it makes sense. And then what I try to do personally is, and this really takes a lot of time for me personally, it does. What I try to do then is to try and take loads of information in, good and bad, what I want to listen to and what I don't want to listen to, so that it will resonate inside of me with the same sort of enthusiasm that what I looked at when I first got back in. And if I can hold that resonating feeling, then I know that something's still making sense. That said, you've still got to look at it all logically. And so what I've, with the help of, channels like Camels, obviously, what those channels have made me do is go out and research the deeper side of the financial institution to try and get some logic about whether I want to hold, whether it makes sense if I hold. Now I'm starting to think, okay, I'm in a position, thankfully, where I can start to think, okay, I could start to take some profit, but what am I taking that profit for? It answers a load of questions in my mind. Do I want it into fiat? Is that a good idea now? Is it not? Well, you can only look at that as a good idea if you understand what's happening to fiat. The journey keeps continuing. So now it's just making me think, okay, if I want to take profit at a certain stage, I want to structure that profit taking process. Well, that's not something that I can just sit in front of a computer and just go, well, I'm going to make a structure. That's from, unfortunately, spending bloody hours trying to get my head around what Camel's doing on his channel, from a structural point of view. So I can see it in a 3D way in front of me logically, from an engineer's point of view, and then put that structure into an exit plan of, okay, yes, I want to take profit. Yes, that makes sense at this time, structured this way with risk analysis built into it. And then so hopefully I can benefit from that risk analysis. Thank you, Camel. You've taught me quite a bit about that. And then move it into to assets that I think are going to be a little bit safer as I understand what's going on in the financial world. If that makes any sense to you, mate, or any of you, that's my mind, and that's how I try and deal with it now.
Mm. I'm sort of, yeah. I mean, I understand you've got to understand the whole thing and what's going on, and then assess the actual risks of it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at, if I invested 8,500 and I'm at 14, do I pull out my investment? I'm still in profit. That profit can carry on playing up or down. It's not going to affect me.
Yeah.
And then reinvest the 8.5 when the market is better for me. Will it go down that much to make it viable, or will it not?
Yeah, well, that's sorry, Camel. I'll let you jump in a minute, but that's my point. That's how I answered it, and that I hopefully I tried to answer it in the same way as when you asked me first about Bitcoin, and I said to you, go and learn about it.
Yeah.
I can't give you that clarification. I can say to you what I can do in my personal circumstances at a personal level, but that isn't necessarily right for you.
I know. I get that. That's why I'm
If that
sort
makes sense.
Yeah, of course. No one can give that absolute answer. It's just what, say, Camel or yourself would think about, okay, if that was the proportions of the money and that's what you're thinking, is it worth keeping it in there at the moment, or is it worth taking out that initial investment?
Yeah, but again, you'll hate me for this, but this is the point. Once you do the work, once you do that, and I know this sounds very patronizing to some people. I don't give a shit because I do this with my with anyone. Because I've seen so much value in myself personally, understanding, and I'm not right or wrong when I say this. Hopefully, I'll be right, but by God, I could be wrong. But by doing the work, we can definitely ascertain that work and put that into how we need to do things personally. And quite often those answers are the same for you, like they are for me, like they are for Camel, but the situation's slightly different. But the value is in, oh yeah, God, I see that. I see that now. I see how that fits into my world. I see how that can work for me. I can, the context and the structure of how it works is the same for all of us, but we need to try and find how that clicks inside of us to make those decisions to go, yeah, I can do 10%, I can pull 20%, I can see the risk of taking 10% now, I can see the risk of taking 30% now, or 20%, or holding 50%, or holding 100%. Does that make any sense? Or am I just being an idiot? Probably I'm being an idiot.
I don't think you're being an idiot. I think part of my learning is to find out of Camel what he thinks. By
Okay.
taking out 100% of my investment, I'm negating my risk totally. The point is whether it's worth doing that at the moment or not.
Yeah. Cool.
Brother,
Over to you, Camel. You're the expert, dude.
to each their own, okay? To each their own. Now, I'm not selling. I'm not selling because we ain't done here.
Yeah.
I think if I'm wrong, there's another 50% upside.
Yeah.
And if I'm right, there might be 200 or 300 or 400% upside from here.
Yeah.
That's what I
So
think.
that's my point. At the moment, we're still looking at an upside, a minimum of 50%.
Yeah. Now, let's be really clear. Okay. Let's be really clear. Can we have a 30% drop from today's value? Yes, that is absolutely on the table. It's Bitcoin. Bitcoin loves to buck people off the trends. So can we have a 30% correction from here? Yes. And I've got a chart in front of me. Let me pull the 30% correction. That would put us somewhere in the neighborhood of $45,000, $46,000. Do you use a pound chart? Do you want me to use a pound chart?
Yeah, please, if
Easier for
possible.
you.
Yeah.
All right, let me put up a pound chart. So currently trading at just over 53K for Bitcoin in GBP. If we were to have a 30% shakeout, that would put us somewhere in the neighborhood of $37,000 Bitcoin. Now, it's a market, anything can happen. That is on the table. But what do I think is most likely? I think it's more likely we go up 30, 40, 50% first, then have that correction. That's what I think. Now,
that's basically what I wanted to know. So if we're looking at a minimum of 30%, keep it in there for a little bit longer, then pull it out, let it drop, put it back in. So I gain more Bitcoin and then let it do its thing.
I think the important point to make here, Cobra, is if it makes you sleep easier at night to know that you put in X amount and then it went up and you took out your initial, right? If you're going to take out your initial capital and say, I just want to let the rest ride for free, if that's what makes you comfortable, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And you're not going to go broke protecting your initial, right? 100% you're not going to. So there's nothing wrong with that. And I think what you need to do and what the individual needs to do is weigh up all possible outcomes, right? So let's say you take your initial out now and it drops 30%. Well, then you'll be laughing. You'll probably put it back in at 30% lower down, ready to ride the next leg, right?
Yeah.
What if, however, you sell your initial now and it goes up 50%? What if in 3 or 4 weeks...
actually lost anything? I've just lost the potential gains I could have had.
Yeah. Now, for some people, probably not for you, but for some people, that hurts more than if you don't sell and it goes down 30%, right? For some people, giving back potential profit is way more painful than losing money. Now, I would suggest there's something probably wrong with those people, but this is just the reality. We're all different. Some people will not be able to sleep at night knowing they missed out on potential gains, whereas they'll sleep like a baby tonight if they lose 30% of their position because we have a dip. So to each their own. If you actually genuinely don't care, right? If you'll be more upset that you sell now and then it pumps, then don't sell. But if you'll be more upset that you sell now and then it drops, or you don't sell now and it drops, then, you do you, right? So weigh up the balance of probabilities, weigh up what you think, how you will feel, how you think you'll react to both situations. And then you have the answer, right? What is right for you is not necessarily right for me or for CPM or for anyone else listening. What do I think personally? I think we go higher. But again, if you want to take your initial out and just ride and you're happy with whatever the market will give you, then that's absolutely not wrong. That is absolutely not wrong. But I would caution against you if there will be many people listening that go, oh, if he sells his initial now, then he's going to miss out on an extra, I don't know, 5-10 grand. Why would he do that, right? You might not care. And if you don't, that's absolutely fine. But there will be many people out there that will lose sleep over the fact they gave back a potential 5 or 10K in profit. So
that's answered my question perfectly. The thing is, as I said to CPM in the beginning, whatever I put into Bitcoin, I knew I could lose potentially, with my limited knowledge. And I was very easy with that. So it's not a thing that will affect me financially if anything went wrong, up or down. But the point was that, is this a good time to pull out that initial and then reinvest it? Or should I wait a little bit more? And from what you're saying, I'm quite happy to wait for it to go up another 20, 30% and then pull it out, let it drop and refeed it back in. What I want to do is increase my actual holding of Bitcoin. So at the moment, I'm on 0.26, I believe. I would have liked to have got to 1, but it just shot up where that wasn't going to happen straight away. So I want to get to one whole Bitcoin eventually, and this is what I'm trying to work out the best way to do it.
Cobra, Cobra, sorry, I'm just going to jump in there. You've got a really easy way to do it. You can buy 10 Bitcoin by selling all your silver.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
Sorry, mate. I just thought that was funny. So
Fair play, fair play.
I mean, look, the thing is, it goes right back to the start of this discussion. Like it could go up and it could go down, right?
Yeah.
It could go up and it could go down. Now, if it goes down, then maybe you'll kick yourself for not selling. And if it goes up, maybe you'll kick yourself for selling. My base case has been that we run from here another 20, 30, even 40 or 50% higher. And then we're going to get a violent, nasty shakeout. That's been my base case. That's been my idea. And if that plays out, if we do shoot straight up from here oh, sorry, I'm used to seeing everything in dollars. Let me put up a pound chart for you. Just get the numbers right. Let's say we shoot from £53,000 up to about £70,000 in an approximately straight line with no real significant pullbacks along the way. In that neighborhood, you see my channel, right? You see me draw trend lines underneath the price and then sell when we break down from those trend lines. On a trend line breakdown like that, I would be thinking to myself, okay, I'll take some off here, wait for a nice significant pullback, preferably to backtest the prior all-time high, which just so happens to be 51,000, I think. Yeah, £51,000. And then in that neighborhood, I would be ready to hop back in, this time with 30% more Bitcoin, ready for that final leg up, what I believe will be the final leg up. So that's one way of doing it. There's also, I think it's worth pointing out, there's nothing wrong with sitting on your hands, right? Seeing where it goes. If it drops, it drops. And if it goes up, it goes up. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with sitting through and riding it and just seeing what you can get, seeing what the market will let you have. Like I said, the most important point is if you're going to lose sleep at night because you didn't take your initial out, then take your initial out. And if you're going to lose sleep at night because you potentially gave back an extra 5 or 10K of profit, then, don't allow yourself to, whatever you need to sleep at night, that's what you should do. Right. And
I think I'm quite lucky. I think I'll sleep either way. I think I'd go with letting it at least go up another 20%, and then I'll probably pull some out and hold it in a bank and just wait for it to drop.
I mean, I think it's worth pointing out here, if you were to pull up a chart and scroll back through time, right? If you look at what happened during the prior all-time highs, let me pull up my dollar chart real quick and scroll out a little bit. Back in when's this? Back in the 2018 top, right? We broke out that all-time high above 20K. We made that high, in 2017, 2018, and we broke out again above that all-time high in 2020. And within something approximating 120 days, we were up 230%. Okay. Yeah. Now, if I go back to the cycle before that, sort this chart out a little bit, 1 second. In 2013, we made a high of about $1,000. We broke out above that high on the 17th of April, 2017. And in 240 days, we were up 1,300%. Wow. Right. So now if we skip ahead to where we are at the hard right edge today, we are pressing up against the all-time high level. Okay. Yeah. It tells me at least, based on history, and history doesn't repeat, but it does often rhyme. It tells me to keep an open mind about potentially seeing a run of 200+% over the next 120 days. Now, if that's to occur, that gives us somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000 Bitcoin, that's dollars, by the first week of July. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm just saying if we look left and extrapolate to the right, people aren't, they're possibly not ready and they're possibly not bullish enough. Yeah. So that's how I'm looking at it. I think we go higher, and experience has told me to just kind of sit on my hands. That's my thing. And if you, like I said before a million times, if you do what's right for you, weigh up all outcomes, all options, and decide what is right for you.
No, that's perfect. It's just getting an idea of what someone more experienced thinks. And I know you could be wrong and all that, I understand, but it's more of an idea than what I had of my own. So that helps.
Good. And like I said earlier as well, if you draw a trend line on your own chart, right, like I do, then you have a black and white system, right? Yeah. If it is above that trend line, then you're okay. You can keep pushing it. And if we
Yeah.
start to close daily candles below that trend line, then you've got an early warning sign. The market is telling you, hey, Cobra, like we're thinking about changing direction. So
Got it.
at least that one simple trend line will give you some area on the chart around which you can say, this is my buy sell indicator, right? This is my area that I'm going to manage my position around.
Perfect. Thank you.
So much more eloquently put than I could.
CPM, I just felt like you were saying a lot of words and I didn't know what you were saying.
Yeah, do you know? I'm not surprised. Do you know what it is though? It's Camel's fault. It's totally Camel's fault.
Why is that?
It's because I am so consumed of I literally, when you're talking about those charts, I'm looking at my chart at the same time. My pathetic put over CPM chart, but I can see the correlation with what I've already plotted out.
Yeah.
Of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And my problem is now is that I start talking in that way. And like,
but you don't sound the same as Camel.
Yeah, but that's because my brain is just totally different. Totally different.
And the thing is, bruv, CPM, at least you've got a chart. I haven't even got a chart.
Yeah.
When Camel turned around and said, get your chart up and put your trend line, I thought, what chart?
I was pissing myself, dude.
Oh, Cobra. And to anyone else listening that doesn't have a chart, okay, you don't have to be a trader. You don't have to be a chart guy, but download the TradingView app. It is free.
Yeah.
Okay. Build yourself a little a little watch list of the things that you hold. I can't talk now. I've had too many beers.
Yay. Good.
The things you hold, right? So for Cobra, it might be gold, silver, Bitcoin, whatever else.
Yeah.
And get in the habit of drawing a couple of trend lines on the charts. Okay. I promise you, your performance will increase dramatically.
Yeah.
Even if you just decide, I'm going to draw a trend line, wait for the thing to cross the trend line and break down, and then I'm going to sell, right? That is way better than going in blind and saying, well, maybe if it hits this price, I'll sell. Maybe if it goes up another 20%, I'll sell. Draw yourself a trend line, and then one day you'll wake up and you'll be like, oh, it's breaking down across my trend line. That's my trigger to sell. And similarly for buying, right? You might DCA into silver or gold on the 1st of every month. But if you get into habit of drawing a downward sloping trend line, okay, waiting for the price to cross above that, and then you buy there instead of just blindly DCAing on the 1st of the month, you will massively increase your stack with the amount of capital that you have available. So for anyone listening, please, you don't have to be a chart guy. You don't have to have loads of indicators. You don't have to spend loads of money on courses learning to trade or anything like that. Just get yourself the app, draw a few trend lines. Believe me, it's going to make a massive, massive difference. And Cobra, I would absolutely recommend you do that.
I will. And what was the app called? Sorry?
TradingView.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That's great advice.
Yeah, please do get it. It is free, and I'm not affiliated with them in any way. It sounds like I might be. But
no, that's great.
But and then you see my channel enough to know, draw a couple of trend lines, and honestly, it makes an absolutely massive difference. And you within a few months, you'll notice a huge performance increase in your overall portfolio. I also had a video on 365's channel where I showed the difference between blindly DCAing into silver on the 1st of the month versus just drawing a trend line and waiting for the thing to cross the trend line and then buying. And the performance was absolutely massive. The difference was absolutely enormous. So just a simple trend line, right? And you don't need any courses or any skills or anything at all. You just download the app, draw a trend line, wait for the price to cross, and that's it, right? That's your trigger to act, whether it's buy or sell. And it makes a huge difference. So even if you're not a trader, highly recommended.
That'll be done.
I
CPM, you use crayons for yours, don't you?
Fuck's sakes. I'm not sure that was quite called for. You're not far. You're not far wrong. Actually, Camel,
you told me before you use crayons. You told me before.
I know. I'll actually take a screenshot and send it to you, Camel, because my you won't believe what my charts look like. But I would just like to jump in, and I will say that if it wasn't for what I've learned about the simplicity of what it took me ages, to be fair, Camel, and
Yeah.
you know this anyway. If it wasn't for trying to understand the simplicity of recognizing that I'm not a trader, but seeing the value and use of building confidence from the simplicity of using trend lines, I would not, and Cobra knows about this, I would not have had the confidence to get into. I'm going to use this as an example. I'm not going to talk about my portfolio too much. The confidence to get into MicroStrategy at $190.
Yep.
And build it and still be holding at 14.25 now without that trend line confidence.
Yep.
And that has made a massive difference to my.
Yeah, that's a big trade, CPM.
Well, that's why I've just said it.
Yeah, that's massive.
Because I am.
Pat yourself on the back.
Thank you. But I don't need to. I pat you on the back, really,
Yeah.
because that's the simplicity of what you put across on your channel.
Yeah.
And I'm 59 years of age and a bit of a retard, but I could pick it up and I saw the value in it, and it's took me bloody ages, but my stocks and shares ISA is busting because of that. Absolutely flying.
Yeah.
And I would not have been in that position if I hadn't had a visual to understand, do I hold? Do I not hold? Where's my risk in this? Setting trend lines, setting risk trend lines in my way, but with the same outcome, to actually sit there and think, oh my God, I 3x'd, 4x'd almost a trade.
Yeah. The
that's the beauty of it, you know.
What people don't realize about the trend lines is they are beautifully simple, and they seem overly simplistic. In fact, one of the biggest and most common criticisms I get of my technical analysis is people say it's overly simplistic. They say there's no way this can be real because you're just drawing a few trend lines, right? There's no way you can actually make money trading with just a few trend lines on the chart. But what people don't realize is these trend lines are a distillation of years and years of overcomplicated TA. And I won't go into the details now because it's kind of hard to explain without you being able to see the charts and stuff. But everything can ultimately be condensed or reduced or distilled down to one or two trend lines, right? You can have classical charting patterns. You can stick indicators on there that are derived from price. You can have all this other stuff. But ultimately, I can reduce any of those technical analysis strategies down to one or two trend lines. And so whilst it seems like it's overly simplistic, this is actually what you're seeing is like I said, a distillation of many complex strategies. So it seems ultra simple. It is ultra simple, but like I said, it is a distillation, and everything is ultimately reduced to these trend lines. So they're incredibly powerful. People don't really realize how simple but effective they can be. And like I said, like I was just saying to you, Cobra, a minute ago, you know, get yourself an app, draw some trend lines, and it makes an absolutely massive difference to your performance.
Yeah, I will do that for sure. And I think as CPM says, it just puts a picture in front of you rather than just plucking a number out of the sky and going, all right, I'll sell at that number. I think it'll make a big difference.
Yeah, all they are is an area on the chart that you can manage your risk around or manage your position around. That's all it is. But if you don't have it, then you're just kind of throwing darts, right?
Yeah.
So
agreed.
It makes a really, really big difference. And having, you know, a line on the chart to say, okay, if the price goes below that, I sell. And if the price goes above that, I buy. You know, at least now you've got a strategy. Now you've got a mechanical area, a place on the chart to manage the risk around. It makes a huge difference. And I think so many people spend all this time trying to program a strategy that tells them when to buy and sell, or they try to add like 15 indicators on the chart and they say, oh, when the RSI crosses above here and when this flashes a buy signal and blah blah blah. But I mean, all of that there's too much going on, right? There's too many nuances, there's too much in the way. People tend to get distracted, they tend to not understand what they're actually putting on the chart in the first place. And a trend line, you know, is so simple that you can draw it on there, and like I said, it gives you an area on the chart to manage your position around, and they're incredibly powerful.
Cool.
And you know, like Cobra, when we talk about gold and silver and bits and pieces, and I say to you, oh yeah, Yeah, I can see it going up, but I just want to wait to see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah,
That's because I'm looking at how that up and down bit is finishing at close with my trend lines, so I can
yeah,
start to see a pattern. Whether that's going to be, or is that going to roll over? Oh God, I hate talking like this because I sound like Camel. Is that going to roll over, or is there some strength there? And the other thing as well, it gives me confidence to wait one more day,
yeah, yeah,
because then you get confirmation. It's another word that Camel uses quite a bit.
Yeah.
You get confirmation, like there's the seed, now confirm it. And I couldn't get my head around that at first, but now it just makes total logical sense. Now you might miss a bit. For me, yeah, I could miss a little bit, but that's the difference between me buying and having confidence and going, yeah, I'm going to buy another ounce of gold this month
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
not. Is it worth me waiting a week? And then you get into cycle theory, which Camel loves. It explains a lot, but then that gives you another thing. Okay, how's that working with the cycles? Does that? Hopefully, I'm not butchering what you're teaching, Camel.
No, you're not at all. You're not at all. Well, what you're saying is absolutely right. You draw a line on the chart and you say that's the line in the sand, right?
Yeah.
And then when the price trades above it, you go, okay, fine. We got
Yeah.
we got an early warning sign. We'll wait and see tomorrow, see what
Yeah.
happens tomorrow. And then it either fails and you go, okay, well, it didn't trap me, or it confirms. And if it confirms, you go, okay, now the balance of probabilities is highly skewed in my favor,
Yeah.
right? So it's kind of like, imagine going to a roulette table
Yeah.
and you got two choices. You can just roll up there and put all your money down on red or black, right? Or you could sit there and watch,
Monitor what's been
wait and,
happening.
wait and see for a streak and say, well, you know what? It's been like 15 hands since black came up. So maybe I should put the next hand on black, right? And that's kind of a terrible analogy because obviously when you spin a roulette table,
It's random every time.
yeah, it's outcome independent, right? So it's kind of a horrible analogy, but my point is, at least with the charts, if you wait for a breakout and then you wait for it to confirm, now suddenly you've got an awful lot more probability skewed in your favor than if you just wait for a price and say, well, that seems cheap, I'll buy that, right? Or whatever. And the more you use these trend lines, the more intuitive they become, the more you start to realize like, oh no, I know what's going to happen next, or at least I think I know what's going to happen next. And it's a practice thing, right? The more you do it, the more intuitive it becomes. The more intuitive it becomes, the better you're going to do. So, and anyone can do it, right? Anyone can draw a trend line. So,
Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay, cool. Very quickly, now we're still with Bitcoin a little bit. Halving's coming up. Do you still think, Camel, that's going to have a big effect, like past history has taught us
I
on the
do
price?
only if the demand stays the same.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if at the moment we are seeing enormous inflows and enormous demand from the ETFs,
Yeah.
and if that stays anywhere close to the numbers that we're seeing at the moment, then yeah, the halving's going to make a massive difference. The halving is certainly going to catapult price higher if the demand stays the same.
Yep.
But it could equally function as a sell the news event, right? People might say, well, the halving's priced in. I'm just going to sell my Bitcoin right before the halving and see what happens.
Yeah.
Historically, Bitcoin actually has a habit of going through its halving and then having a significant sell-off before then revealing a true bull market. So I suppose we've got to be open to that as well. But ultimately, if you halve the supply and the demand stays the same or roughly the same, then you should expect higher prices, right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, cool. Right, we're going to go a little bit outside the box on this now. Do you think, now you've mentioned it, that this could be a little bit conspiracy, but I know you like that, and I know Cobra likes it as well. Do you think that possibly there is enough liquidity out there to keep these inflows going well beyond what after the halving, and just keep going? Really, how much liquidity out there that you think Bitcoin can absorb? Or
I think there's infinite liquidity, I think.
Yeah.
They can just keep printing more.
I
Every
was
time
going to say, and they're going to have to print more, and that puts more money into the system.
Yeah. And particularly to Bitcoin, we apparently are looking at the 60-40 model portfolio, 60% stocks, 40% bonds, morphing into the 60-39-1, with the one being a 1% allocation to Bitcoin. We've been seeing that with BlackRock allocating 1% to Bitcoin in some of its ETFs, some of its funds. We've seen it with Fidelity. We've seen it with some pension funds. It's probably going to be a trend that continues. And so, you know, with global equities at, what is it, a 49 trillion, something like that, we're looking at perhaps 1% of that flowing into Bitcoin. I mean, I think there's plenty of liquidity. I do. And I think if we run out, they'll just find a new way to create it. I mean, we've seen this Operation Reverse Twist thing. We've seen the BTFP, which is about to expire, but the reverse repo, which is about to be drained. There's just all these little like stealth QEs, right? They're never going to call it QE until we have some big meltdown. They have to prop the whole thing back up. But I mean, ultimately, like they can create infinite amounts of money, right? So there's probably going to be plenty of liquidity.
It's a great subject, this, isn't it? What a time to be alive.
Yep.
Very. Do you think that the possibility of the haves and haven'ts, I love the way you put it earlier with the have yachts and the not have yachts.
Have yachts and the have nots, yeah.
Inequality is becoming a massive issue. And do you think this is going to be accelerated over the next 2 years? Great question.
Over the next 2 years?
Yeah, or the next decade, probably.
Over the next decade, I certainly think so. Yeah, certainly think so.
But
I mean, inequality, are we talking about in people and what they have and don't have? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah. The difference between probably what I'm looking at is the old adage of working class, middle class, upper class, elite, whatever you want to call it. That I think we all know that probably since 2020, that divide has grown further and further apart due to certain things that have happened. Do you think that's going to accelerate going forward?
I think inequality has always been a major issue all over the world for centuries. There's always been the really, really rich and the people in power and all that sort of stuff, and the really, really poor. And I think that gap is going to widen for sure in a lot of ways. And I think when you look at, let's say, and I don't mean this derogatory, but when you look at, say, the lower class, they're not thinking on these levels. They're thinking day to day and how they're going to survive. And then the middle class, you have some people who are thinking on these levels of investing and all that. And you've still got the others who are still struggling to survive. And I think when things break out and really change, and when we see a change in the fiat currency, I think, we'll definitely see a massive breakout of middle class going into upper class or even lower class. So the gaps will widen, I believe.
Yeah, I 100% agree. 100% agree with that. I think the middle class is going to be eradicated, and there's going to be this massive, massive wealth divide. You are right as well with what you say, is that most people are not paying attention because they've got their own problems to worry about, right? They've got to feed their families, they've got to put food on the table. So yeah. But ultimately, it's the story of inflation, right? The more you inflate a currency, the more you debase a currency, then the more it benefits the few that hold assets. And that is at the expense of the people that do not hold assets.
That's right. It's really
I've heard that many times. Why is it always at the expense? So, for example, the reason I say that, I do understand why it's at the expense, but in the way of, let's say, I'm holding, let's just put a number out there, £50,000 in gold and silver. And the next man is not holding anything in gold and silver. Now, gold and silver go up and I do well, but why is it at his expense that he didn't hold anything and he hasn't gone up?
I think in that particular scenario, it's not at his expense. But I think when we use this term kind of loosely, it pertains to the rich earn compound interest, right?
Right.
And the poor are the yield. they pay compound interest. They have to have the credit cards, they have to have the debt, they have to have, right? So they pay the yield, and the rich earn it. So I think that's what it is. In your scenario, yeah, if you hold gold and some other guy doesn't, right? Yeah, it's not at his expense. But I think equally when we say at the working class's expense, that's more to do with, you know, the banks and the bankers or the central banks that print the money. They get richer because they can print the money and give it to each other, right?
Yeah.
Give it to their friends and family, and it's at the expense of everyone else because
Paying the
they
interest,
suffer. They have to suffer the inflation, and they don't get the handout like the central bankers and the central bankers' family members do.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's a great analogy there that I simply look at it, and that's property. Whoever owns all the property owns the asset.
Yeah.
And then the yield is paid by the people that pay the rent.
Mm.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are the yield. They are the yield for the rich.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's really sad when you actually look at that.
And I mean,
think,
even at the higher level, that's true of like people that hold credit cards, right? Or get furniture on finance.
Yeah.
Right. They're paying a yield. That someone has lent them that money.
Yeah.
And they're paying interest, and that interest goes somewhere, right? And that interest is earned by somebody. So again, who is it that's lending the money? Or it's the rich, it's the banks, it's the finance system.
Yeah.
And who is it that's paying the yield? Well, that's the people. I don't want to say the poor people in a derogatory manner, but it's the poor people that have to finance furniture, right? Or the poor people that have to have that debt.
and the interest is just made up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it's just totally fictitious.
Yeah,
it's not even real. It's mad. It's absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. I think we've done that one to death, haven't we? Ah, right, Cobra. This would be interesting. Do you want to do your unpackaging? Does anyone want a toilet break? Does anyone want a toilet break first?
All right.
Okay.
Well, I'll explain it to Camel and see if he
I'm
knows
gonna have a quick toilet break.
Yeah. So Camel, obviously I get gold and silver, but there are many different types of silver. There's your normal stacking basic bullion silver, which is just plain old weight. Then there's your collectibles and your numismatics and all that sort of stuff. Now, how much do you know about some of the newer collectibles that are out there?
Not a lot, to be honest, if anything.
Okay. And how much do you know, just not even if you've been into it or not, about, say, Pokemon cards and Magic the Gathering and all that sort of stuff?
I know a fraction about Pokemon. I know nothing about Magic the Gathering.
Okay. So these were basically cards that were brought out as a game, and they were collectible trading cards. So basically, you'd collect the cards, you play the game, and some of the cards were really rare, some were really common, and the really rare ones went up in price. So let's stick with Pokemon. Magic the Gathering was basically the same thing. It was the original. But let's say Pokemon, and some of them, I don't know, Charizard or something, I don't know much about each individual creature. Some of them were so rare that they went massively up in price and could be worth 100,000 just for one card.
Okay.
Well, now Niue, New Zealand Mint, have brought out these. If you look at the screen, I don't know if you can see that. That is the DC collectible trading silver coins.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So they brought out the first set, which was Star Wars.
Yeah.
Then they brought out Marvel, and now this one here is DC. So Superman, Batman, all that lot.
Yeah.
Now, what it is, in each box, you get 2 silver coins, but you have no idea what's in the box.
Okay.
One will be a green, which is reasonably common, but still quite rare. Only 250 produced in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go through different colors all the way to the gold gildeds, which are only 30 made in the world. And then a gold quarter ounce where there's only 10 made in the world.
Okay, that sounds pretty rare.
Yeah, very rare. These have become highly, highly popular. And each box originally, when it's sold, is sold for $300 a box.
Yep.
And then the minute they're sold, which sell out in literally minutes from Niue, then they're retailed out by wholesalers and all that lot, and they go up to $450 to $500 a box.
Right.
So I got about 10 or 12 of these boxes in Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
And I have a box here, which is unopened, still sealed. And I said to CPM, I've done a live before where I've actually open them and we see what we get. And I've got some really nice coins. A couple of them I sold for £2,000, just 2 coins,
Right.
£1,000 each,
Wow.
and they went. And so I've got a box here which is sealed, and I said, well, if we get time and if you want to, we'll open one up on CPM's channel and his recording. So that I thought I'll give you a brief intro into what it is before I do it.
Very awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Okay. So
and he forgot to say the deal was if he unboxed a gold coin, he was going to split it 3 ways.
Oh, lovely.
sorry, I've got to go. I've realised I've got to go. All right, so should we do this?
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah,
All right, let's move the camera a little bit just so I've got a bit more room. Okay, so here's the box, and we're going to take it out of the plastic first. So these are totally sealed. They have not been opened at all. And as you can see, that is the Newey Mint GC trading coins. And people trade these afterwards, literally trying to pick up their sets. And they're fully sealed all the way around. Though this box looks like it's not sealed. Hang on a minute. That box is sealed.
He's checked already.
Hang on, I haven't. Let me go to the other box I've got, because if that's not sealed, I'm not happy about that. And I'm going to have to chat to my dealer about that. But one moment.
See, Camel, he was scared, like, because I let it out the bag, just in case there was a gold coin in there.
The gold coin off camera right now.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, yeah, he's just swapping them over.
Okay, so I've got another one here, which looks like it is sealed, but I'm going to have a look at that, which looks like isn't sealed anymore. I'm going to have a look at that in a minute, because someone's opened that.
Absolutely.
And that's not very good, especially when you pay the money you sort of pay for them. Okay, so there's another box, which is sealed.
Nice.
Cobra, can I just jump in here? This is the dream talking. I can't believe that this is like a back in the 80s children's thing. But don't worry, I've got another one.
Oh, here's one I made earlier.
Here's me. It's not a problem. Only Cobra could have. I've got another one.
I actually said to one of my customers, all right, I'll open one and you open the other. But I'm going to open this one, which means he hasn't got one now, because I can't sell him an unsealed one. All right, so we're going to break the seals. There we go. That's one. And that's the other.
So do you have no idea what's in here? Is that right?
No idea at all. It could be. Okay. So you'll always get one common, which will be a green card. Yeah. And then the second card is the one where you could really make some good money. Okay. Or it could be only worth a couple of hundred. Okay. But you never really lose much of your money. The most you're going to lose is $50. The potential to gain is a lot more. Okay. So they come in this beautiful black box, which I'm going to open now. One moment. Whoa, there we go.
It's so amazing if it's gold.
Oh, tell me about it. And as you can see, there's 2 cards in there. 1, 2 in these velvet pockets. So I'm just going to put that over there. And I'll just briefly show you this catalogue, which sort of tells you what we're hoping to get. That's the green, which is common. And you got everything there from Aquaman, Batman, Batgirl, Batwoman, whatever, the Flash, etc., etc., etc. And there's 250 mintage of them. And as you turn over, the next one is orange. And there's 150 mintage of them, each coin. And they are coins. They've actually got a value to them and a seal. The next one is red, and there is only 50 mintage of each of them. And then we go to the purples, which are gold gilded as well. And there's only 30 of them. And then the final one will be that quarter gold, where there's only 10 of them. Ooh. Okay. So that's what we're looking at. So the first one, as I say, this one here should always be green. And as we put it up, it is green, and it is. Oh, who's that? Wonder Woman or?
Don't ask me, Jesus. But she looks quite hot though.
She does look hot. Let me have a look. That is, yep, it's Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman.
All right, so that's cool. That's Wonder Woman. Now this is the big one. This is the one where it could be money.
Come on, gold.
It's got to be gold. It's got to be gold. Wouldn't that be lovely on this channel?
Oh, it's an orange. So 150 mintage, which still isn't bad. And it's one that I haven't got.
Hey.
So let me look it up. So on the Marvel ones, I have completed all of the greens and all of the oranges. And that's basically worth about £4,000 for the 2 sets.
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus.
And with this one here, this is, one moment, just looking in my little catalogue.
That Wonder Woman as well.
No, it's
Catwoman? Big busty woman.
Starfire, never heard of her. But there you go. So that is how that works. Shall we quickly open that unsealed one?
Oh Jesus, you got me so excited now. Yeah, definitely.
Bro, I did 12 of these on a live, and it was just unbelievable. The buzz on it was unbelievable. And as I say, I got 2 coins in there, and I sold each one for over £1,000.
Wow.
Each coin. So, you know, right. So here's the other one. It was already open, so I'm a bit upset about that. And I will be moaning to my dealer on that one. First one is a green.
You got video evidence.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh no, that's an orange by the looks of it. So the green has been swapped round. So whoever opened it and looked at it, put it back wrong. But there you go, a green. Oh, and it's Batman, which is the best one you can get in the greens.
Nice.
So that's worth a couple of hundred.
How much does it weigh? What's this silver content?
1 ounce.
Is it really?
1 ounce, bro. 1 ounce. And who's that? Supergirl, Superwoman.
Is that 1 ounce? Is that 1 ounce as well?
Yes. So if you look at the back, there's a coin.
Yeah.
And then the front has the picture on it, and they're sealed. So, and then on the bottom it tells you this is 122 out of 150.
Oh yeah, I get you. Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. That's a little bit of the reveal on the DC coins.
Cheers, bud.
Very nice.
I'll tell you
There
what.
you go.
Cobra, just do an auction, private auction with me and Camel. What do you fancy, Camel?
I'll do it.
Is
It'll all be in Bitcoin. You'll have to pay in Bitcoin. How's that?
I'm good with that, dude. I'm good with that.
There you go. Yeah, a bit of fun for you all there with the DC coin. I'm waiting for what's going to be next now. As I say, it was Star Wars, then Marvel, then DC. And
did you say Pokemon's coming?
No. I was giving you the example.
Oh, just an example. Okay.
Yeah. So just sort of telling you how the Pokemon cards work and how these will be very big in their time. So obviously these being the first sets, as more and more come out, people will be after the first original Star Wars and Marvels and all that.
Yeah.
And those coins could go really high in value.
Yeah.
So this is my risk side of silver, let's say.
Do you know? I think I own less than 5 ounces. No. It must be, let's say, less than 10 ounces of non. What would you call it? Of non-Britannia or silver bar, like
standard.
All of my silver is just give me the cheap stuff, whatever.
See, and with me, it's very different. If you look at, say, for example, this one here, the Quadrant Dragon. I don't know if you can see that clearly. Beautiful coin, very low mintage, very high premium. But again, I do collect a lot of these more risky pieces. Again, here's another one with the Cobra. Only, I believe, 500 mintage on that. And high premiums, but high relief coins. Absolutely gorgeous.
Do you plan to sell them at some point, or is it more just like you keep them as part of your, I don't know what you call it, net worth, or just because you like them?
So, for example, there's a coin that's come out recently, which I bought 12 of, which was a Peaky Blinders coin. And I truly believe, because there's a set of them and they'll be released over time. Yeah. And there's also a feature film being released in 2025 with the Peaky Blinders. And where it was such a popular series, I believe that first coin, for instance, when the second and third come out and people realize, because there's only 1,000 of them, that they can't get that first one, the price goes up. and that was proven in these a gangster set bought out by the same company, and the price went up from 300 to 1,500 a coin. So I do sell these as well. Obviously, I have my auction, and I sell a lot of these on the auction, and I do hold some, hoping that they'll go up in price at a later date. Now, not all of them do. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot will just be flops or may not do anything at all. But there are others, and the more popular in the series, like Marvel, Star Wars, Star Trek, Peaky Blinders, where they've got something backing them, which is known by the general public, where they really can increase in price a lot quicker than your normal silver will.
Yeah, I get you.
I've got a question for you, Camel.
Yeah,
it's quite funny. I was going to ask you in a minute what sort of physical silver do you buy? Obviously, you said Britannia's the cheaper ones, the one that makes sense. But when you've gone outside of that, what sort of thing has attracted you? What have you bought?
I've got some of the Queen's Beasts ones.
Okay.
I think the first one I ever went that was more branching out into patterns or whatever you want to call it. I bought the Queen's Beast Greyhound one because my mum has always had sighthounds.
Okay.
I know Mrs. Camel recently bought a whole heap of those Noah's Ark ones.
Oh, cool.
I've also got a few here on my desk. These are the silver dragon coins. The rectangle ones.
Those ones.
Yeah. Wait, hang on.
That's the whole set there.
Yeah, those ones. So I think these ones in my hand right now are 2023 ones. So I got a few of those. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I've got the Queen's Beast collectors ones as well. The 2-ounce collectors. Oh no, completers. Yeah. I got a bunch of those. But yeah, generally speaking, I just buy Britannias or bricks of silver.
And have you never been sort of wanting to collect, say, the whole set of the dragons or the whole Queen's Beast? Have you never felt like, oh, I want to complete that?
Honestly, no, not really. I've wanted to turn one of these. The reason these are on my desk and not kept where the rest of them are kept is because I wanted to turn one of these silver dragon ones into a pendant. I was thinking about making some sort of case, and then I could put it on a necklace. I thought that'd make a pretty cool little pendant, but I haven't gotten around to it. I've made no progress with that. But generally speaking, no, I don't really think about it like that. I think about it more in terms of how can I get the cheapest price for my silver so that when I eventually come to sell it, I could hopefully get the most profit. But
so with the dragons, have you only got the 2023?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, I'm going to do a little something for you. Right. Send an email with your address, or if you want to do it through CPM, I will send you the other 5 that you need to complete it.
Oh, brother, you're way too kind.
No, that's a little present from me for your advice.
Oh, thank you.
So you'll have all 6, and it means every year you only have to buy the one release that they bring, and that will carry on that collection. So you'll have one set of silver, which will actually be a collection.
Yeah. Oh, bless you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
What the fuck? He's been on here. I'm sorry, I've got a button here. He's been on here for 2.5 hours. I've known you for ages.
And are you saying I've never sent you anything?
And shut up. And that destroys my bit of comedy. Dude, that's really cool. I
think it's a beautiful set, and I think if you've got one of them, add the rest.
There they are, there, right across the back there.
Yeah,
and I must admit, I think I bought the whole range from Cobra on one of his auctions on one night.
Yeah,
I do believe.
I think you're right.
Which was pretty cool. Wow, that's unbelievable. I think we should charge him though, Cobra.
No, I can't do that. In fact, what I'm going to do, you see this whole set here, which is in that frame. I'm going to send you the whole frame, the whole lot, as it is. There you go.
I am speechless. I'm speechless.
There you go.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I'm just wondering how I can help him a little bit more.
Help who?
You.
To do what? Oh,
So I could get some stuff off you. No, I'm only playing. That's unbelievable. What a great thing. So are you like that with your gold as well, Camel?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Baseline.
I just thinking, what's in the gold stack? I don't think I've
Are you
got anything outside the box that's gold. No, I haven't. I don't think nothing at all that's outside the box.
I don't think Cobra's going to send you some free gold.
no.
Nice try. No, I'm just playing.
That's not going to happen.
But that, no, especially after
I
today.
do like the special pieces, like you've got that 1 ounce Geiger there, or the 1 ounce Una and the Lion, and different bits like that, and the dragons even in 1 ounce gold, and I think they're gorgeous.
Did you see Cobra's bar video today, Camel?
I think so. Let me have a look.
With the 3 point something kilo
Yeah, I
silver.
did. Yeah, I did.
Fucking amazing.
Oh, that one there.
Yeah.
That is a chunk and a half. Absolutely gorgeous.
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I spoke to Cobra because I had to go out. I was driving along, and I just said to him, "It's so refreshing that I always view Cobra's channel as my shopping channel, even if it's window shopping.
Yeah.
There isn't. I don't think there is anyone in the UK that is providing us with that sort of, I don't know, lovely thrill, hopeism, wishful thinking type stuff. Really, it's really cool indeed.
It's a pleasure. As we've discussed many times, CPM, my whole thing with this was to bring bits into the UK that people don't ever see or don't ever get the opportunity to buy. And now with the auctions, I can offer that to them, at a very good price.
Yeah, for sure. There's a great analogy for it. Not analogy. Sort of segue into a question for you. How are you feeling about your outlook for 2024 regarding people buying these sort of pieces? Do you think that's going to continue? Do you think there's going to be a little bit more of a specialized thing for certain people that are trying to have got wealth to go into like special pieces, or what's your outlook, dude?
I think there's always people out there who are able to do it. I do think 2024 is going to be a tougher year as it goes on for a lot of people, and we may see some adjustment in that. But there are always people out there who are in a financial situation to still be able to carry on with it. I think the mints are bringing out so many products that it's hard to choose what you're going to spend your money on. And so you've got to be careful on what you pick up. That is it really something that's going to make any money or store any money, or is it just something you love? And in that case, it doesn't really matter because it's a beautiful piece and you want to have it. I think in my auctions, I cater from everyone like Camel, who just wants basic Britannias or basic Krugerrands or whatever it may be, all the way up the scale to people who will chuck down £400 on a DC box and not even know what they're getting in it. So I think the market's there. I think the market may be a bit harder as we carry on through this year and even into 2025 with everything that's going on in the world. But there are always people who are fortunate enough to be able to get what they want, though that may be limited in the market as we go through this year.
Will you take Bitcoin?
I will.
Will you take CBDCs if they come out?
I won't have a choice.
Yeah,
I think if CBDCs come out and fiat money goes, then that's what we're going to be, using. That's that.
Yeah.
Cobra, just a thought. Highly recommended if you're going to accept Bitcoin for stuff like that, to get yourself a separate cold wallet.
Yeah.
And then you'll have a way of accumulating. Yeah, but separate from where you're going to put your other stuff.
Ah, right. Okay.
So buy yourself a second one or a Trezor or something like that, and then
Right.
keep that separate. And so anytime you sell a piece, whatever that piece may be, for Bitcoin, get them to send it to a wallet generated on a separate cold storage device, and then you will have some non-KYC Bitcoin, right?
Absolutely.
Some
Ah,
Bitcoin that is outside the system and nobody knows who's got it.
I will do that. So
So
basically, buy another one of these ledgers, set it up, and then just give that as my wallet address to send the Bitcoin to.
yeah, or get a Trezor. A Trezor is like another version of that, and use the Trezor. And then but just a separate cold storage wallet. Don't put any personal information like email address or phone number in it. And then anyone that wants to buy something for Bitcoin, have them, send it to a wallet address that you generate from that other one. And slowly but surely, you'll be building a stack of anonymous Bitcoin.
Okay, and if ever you want to sell that, do you have to go onto a platform like Coinbase to sell that?
Well, if you did, then
It becomes
that would be a taxable
KYC.
event. But if you went to a peer-to-peer exchange, then you lost it in a boating accident, right? Or
Yeah,
you could keep it, I'm not, let me be clear, I'm not saying this because I am pro dodging tax or anything illegal. I'm not saying
yeah,
that. I'm saying
yeah.
everyone
Yeah, please,
ideally,
please be careful, guys.
yeah. I'm just saying everyone, in an ideal world, if you want to truly have a stack of non-KYC Bitcoin in case the absolute worst should happen, this would be one way to acquire that, right?
Okay.
To earn Bitcoin and keep it segregated. And there's no taxable event if you don't sell it, right?
Yeah.
If you want to be above board about it, you can declare it, you can transfer it to Coinbase, you can sell it for fiat and pay tax on it. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that.
Here we go.
So look, I'm going to have to make a move shortly. I've thoroughly enjoyed this, and Camel, it's been a pleasure talking to you. And CPM, always a pleasure talking to you. You've become a very, very good friend.
Yeah. Thank you very much for coming on, dude.
It's been a pleasure to meet you, Cobra. Really has, bro. CPM, big love as always.
So I need Camel. I need you to contact me with an address or pass it through CPM, or if you want me to send the stuff to CPM and he sends it to you, whatever way you feel comfortable.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
And I'll get these dragons out here.
Okay, thank you so much. That's so very kind of you. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
No worries,
right,
guys.
I'll jump off, gentlemen. I'll let you carry on, and thank you both again so much.
All right, cheers, Cobra. Thank you, mate.
No worries, Cobra. I'll catch up with you soon, dude.
Thanks, brother. Take care. Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Camel.
Hello, mate. You all right?
Yeah, that was really cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
It was so nice to have I mean, albeit I've just sat here and drunk and gone to the toilet and drunk and gone to the toilet and listened to you, Stu, really.
Yeah.
Mate, have you got some time?
Yeah, I got some time. Can I pop to the toilet first, though? Do you mind?
Of course you can, mate.
Give me 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. I'll be back.
I'll pause the record.
All right, thanks, mate.
Cool, mate. No worries. Do you want to go till 5?
Yeah, whenever. Yeah, sure.
That's pretty out. I can't believe 2 hours 40 minutes has gone.
It flies by, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. It really does. Dude, while I've got the opportunity to, how are you getting on? How are you getting on with your channel? Your channel's flying, mate.
It's been amazing, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, I'm up something like 4,000 subscribers in the past 28 days, which is
crazy.
Absolutely wild. Yeah. 4,010 in the last 28 days, it says. We've just crossed 9,000 subscribers as of the time of recording.
It's mad.
It is. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It's very humbling. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. How are you getting on with, I sent you a little email a little while ago, didn't I? Just saying, like, it seems like you haven't justified yourself quite a bit now.
Yeah, I think I was. I'm not anymore. Not at the moment.
Cool.
I do think that during periods of increased volatility, there seems to be a pattern, right? Like when we've got increased volatility, more and more trolls and haters seem to come out.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Like I kind of, sometimes it gets to me a little bit more than I would like to admit, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And then other times I kind of just adopt the attitude that they're not worth giving any time or energy to. Yeah. And ultimately, even if you comment something negative on the channel, it's still a comment, still helps the algorithm, right?
Yeah.
So all comments are good comments. So what's that saying? All publicity is good publicity or whatever.
Absolutely.
But yeah, generally speaking, it's wholly positive. I try not to ignore the negativity because I don't want to. I know a lot of channels, their approaches, if anyone says anything that's negative or that goes against the ideas presented in the channel, they just block people.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's necessarily a good way to go about it, because if I'm just going to block everyone that disagrees with me, then I might be missing out on opportunity for improvement or to take on board criticism, or I might have missed some detail that's really important, right? And if I just have this approach of I'm just going to block anyone and everyone that says anything that doesn't go against the or doesn't agree with me, I think that potentially leaves advantage and learning opportunity on the table. So yeah, I try to give at least some energy to them, but I can tell a lot of people, I think we kind of covered this earlier a little bit, when the price goes to all-time highs, new eyes come into the space, right?
Yeah.
New people come into the space, and when new and inexperienced people come into the space, they obviously can't comprehend some of the stuff that's being said, or they misinterpret it or whatever. But yeah, wholly speaking, for every one negative comment, there's 99 that are positive. So it's a very humbling experience. And I know a lot of people find value from the channel, which is really nice, because the whole reason I do it is to try to provide value.
Yeah. It's testimony, sitting on on the outside, watching, observing. Obviously I get quite a bit out of it, of what I need, but it's so cool to see. And I want to believe this because of what you portray. I don't know you personally as a person, but you do certainly come across as someone so genuine with the way you professionally put stuff out. And all credit to you. I I I can't thank you personally. And I know I say this a lot, but it's actually meant, because I know you're not giving me any personal value other than my education, but it's the only way I can express it. It's so cool to see in this day and age someone being authentic and consistent with that authenticity. It's rare. It's really rare, and I kind of try to get people personally on my channel to try and realize how authentic you are. But people are people, but I can't thank you enough. I really can't. It's so cool for the universe, really, that you stick it out there.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. I mean, I just try to, as somebody that's watched a lot of YouTube, I try to provide content that I think is missing. That's what I try to. Because if I couldn't provide something that filled any gaps, then I would just be another one of these channels. It's like, buy my altcoin or click this referral link or whatever, right? It's not a great deal of value there. I will say this: of late, I have been bombarded with emails with people that want my time, with people that want a partnership, with people that want me to build indicators and algorithms with them, and people that work for exchanges, and they've offered me some. They're not insignificant sums of money, really. But it kind of blows my mind, because I'm just kind of like, they don't seem to understand. They're like, oh, so Camel, like we'll give you this huge paycheck, and then we'll give you all this referral money and blah blah blah. And they're like, all we want you to do is shill our exchange to your followers, knowing in full knowledge of the fact they're going to lose their money. And I'm like, who accepts these terms? And then when I'm like, no, I'm not interested, right? No thanks. They come back again, and they're like, oh, I don't think you understand. We'll offer you more money then. I'm like, no. Like, I can't possibly or ethically sign up for this stuff, right? Like, I'm not interested. And the more you tell them no, the more they seem to want to dangle bigger carrots in front of you. It's just really weird. It's just really weird. But I understand now, from being on this side of it, that if you're not a real trader, or if you don't have any income, then those kind of numbers could be probably quite tempting, right? Sure. Particularly if you don't have, I mean, even if you got some income and you just have a pretty loose set of morals, right? But I couldn't do it, man. I couldn't do it. But it's been amazing to see, because I mean, it's by no means a 250,000 sub channel, right? And yet I still get really quite significant numbers thrown at me on a nearly daily basis.
Yeah.
So I can only I
Yeah.
shudder to think what these biggest, these bigger channels with 250 odd thousand subscribers, I shudder to think the kind of numbers that they're offered.
Yeah.
But I just try to keep doing me, man. I just want to help people. I think there's value there, right? If I can save people time, if I can help people get over that initial learning curve, if I can help them learn faster, then they will receive value for their time, and the YouTube channel will earn a bit of money as a result of that. Yeah, I'm still going to continue to give away the stuff I give away for free. That will never change. I'm still going to try to preach, the solid principles of managing risk and not being a degenerate gambler and working hard, and hopefully, work hard. God rewards that hard work. That's kind of my philosophy for life, and it's always been that way.
Do you get some positive feedback from the people that are obviously investing in your membership and bits and pieces, that it's working for them? Do you get do you get some good positivity from that?
Yeah, I want to be careful when I say this.
Of course,
this is not me. This is not me trying to say you need to join the membership. The membership is absolutely not necessary.
I get that.
And I think the channel has plenty of value that will be given away for free. You don't need the membership.
I'm a prime example of that.
Yeah. But without meaning to blow my own trumpet, the members are incredibly satisfied with what they've been provided with. I know that because they reach out to me and DM me and say, I'm now a profitable trader, or I'm now making money, or I took one trade following the membership and it's paid for the whole year of membership. So yeah, for the most part, people are very happy. The retention rate is high, which is great. And we've been trading mostly miners, mostly the Bitcoin miners, a couple of altcoins, believe it or not. Believe it or not, a couple of altcoins. I will say this now for anyone that's thinking, oh, Camels shifting to altcoins. I'm not shifting to altcoins. Neither should you join my membership expecting to see altcoins. I actually recorded a video this morning and I said to the members, we've got our 2 altcoin positions. Don't request any more. Don't expect any more. I reserve the right to put any asset I want there. But if someone's thinking to themselves, oh, cool, I'll get some Camel altcoin picks. No, you won't. It's almost certainly not going to be any more. But the ones we've got are doing okay. So happy days. The members seem wholly happy, which is great. And I do what I can. It adds a layer of complexity and stress, because when it's one thing to manage your own money and trade, right? But when you know people are watching, when your reputation is at stake, when people are going to copy you, even when you say not to copy you. It adds a layer of complexity, and it adds a layer of requirement to be operating and performing at the highest possible level. So I've been more stressed since I've had the member section, for sure, but I also really enjoy it, and it's really refreshing to have people. Again, to put it in perspective, people have been paying for the membership and then tipping me on top to say thank you for the help, thank you for this, buy your missus a meal, buy your missus a bottle of champagne. So that speaks volumes, right? They're willing to pay over the odds for the service. Again, I'm not suggesting anyone listening to this should be rushing away to pay for the membership. I think all of the value that you get from the channel should be enough for you to be a profitable trader, assuming I do my job correctly. But yeah, the members they're very, very happy about it in my experience.
Would you I know a few of them. Would you want to personally, going forward, would you want to personally expand that, or do you?
In what way, sorry?
Like, would you like to become, because you're almost becoming like a teacher of a profession of experience of what you've experienced in what you do as a profession? That sounds really weird. Would you like to expand that? Are you comfortable with it? Or
the whole idea for the channel was to show that most people are unqualified to have a finance channel. That was kind of a big portion, right? It's like a lot of people, they say they're good at trading, but they won't show you their positions. They won't call them out ahead of time. They won't give the stuff away for free. They're like, oh, I'm really good at trading, trust me, and buy my $1,000 course. Right? And I was always kind of like, oh, why should I buy your $1,000 course if you can't even prove to me you can trade, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then they're like, oh, by the way, here's my next 1,000x altcoin pick. And then they show you a picture of, you know, their Lamborghini or their whatever. I'm like, you know, this isn't what trading looks like. I know because I actually trade, right? So I kind of just wanted to come into this space and offer a different insight. You know, there's no Lambos, there's no flexing Rolexes or whatever. It's just me, a cheap Photoshop camel, and I trade some charts, right? But I do it properly. I show you the positions. I call them out ahead of time, as you know.
Yeah.
I show you where the stop loss is, so I can't cheat the system. Because a lot of people are very good at saying, maybe we should take some profit here, and then we fast forward into the future, and whether the market's up or down, you know, if the market's up, they go, well, I did say maybe, but lucky we didn't. And if the market's down, they go, well, I said maybe we should take some profits. Good thing we did, right? They're very good at telling you after the fact. But I was always kind of like, you know, there's a piece here missing from YouTube, and people should, you know, if they really trade, they should show their positions. So that's what I tried to do. And I hope with time, people will demand this from people that claim to be traders, right? I hope that one day in the future, all traders on YouTube have to show their positions and call them out ahead of time like I do. That's what I hope. And if we can get to that stage, I'll consider it mission complete.
Yeah.
How do I feel about being a coach? I don't really think about myself as a coach.
Yeah.
I just I'm just a trader, and I show you what trading looks like. And I think, you know, if I was going to be an apprentice, I know you're a heating and plumbing engineer, right?
Yeah.
If I was going to be an apprentice, I would assume I would come on site with you, right? And you would show me how it works. You'd be like, this is what I do, right?
For 5 years.
How this works. Huh?
For 5 years.
Yeah, right. But ultimately, I would be following you around. I'd be watching what you do. I'd be learning from you.
Yeah.
So that's what I try to emulate on the channel. I try to be like, this is what trading looks like. And if you tune in every day, if you put in the work, if you try to watch what I'm doing, you should be able to emulate that, and you should be able to have some success.
Well,
and there's no distraction from me promising you a 1,000x altcoin return. There's no me saying to you, hey, click this link, sign up to this exchange, deposit a Bitcoin, you get $5,000 for free. Right?
Yeah.
There's none of that. There's just, you know, you can watch me trade, and then if you find some value, you can try and apply it yourself.
Absolutely. And I can honestly say, I'm not going to prove it because what I do is private in my life. Sorry, I'm getting. I'll tell you what, Camel.
Yeah.
No, come here. Oh, Mrs. CPM coming. She's just run away.
I was thinking,
come and say hello. Come and say hello. Oh, she's run away. Bless her. She said, "Oh, Cobra's gone." Sorry, what I was going to say before I go to the toilet. I can. I'm not going to show it. I'm not going to, because that's private. But I can honestly say, with your free content and your humbled way of doing you've helped me accumulate a 6-figure portfolio.
Well, I'm really pleased to hear about that. Yeah.
And I'm 59 and a plumbing and heating engineer.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, just from my point of view, you don't owe me nothing. I don't know you from Adam in true reality. But your content has actually helped me achieve that, and it's growing.
I'm really pleased to hear. That's why I do what I do. That's why I do what I do.
Absolutely amazing. With that, I must go to the toilet again.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, mate, I was just saying, like, I've turned in just purely, that's my own discipline, has to be said. I haven't just sat on the sideline and followed anything you've said, because you don't actually put it out there to follow.
Yeah.
But I can honestly say that has helped me tremendously convert a small amount of money into quite a large amount of money. So with confidence and risk.
Well, I'm really pleased to hear that.
Hard. Yeah, mate, you're doing, I don't know what feedback or stuff you get, but even at the free content you give out has just made a enormous difference to my life.
Well, I'm really pleased to hear that. That's why I do what I do. Yeah, like I said, I think I do fill a gap in the YouTube marketplace, so to speak.
Massively.
And yeah, I'm just going to try to keep doing that, and hopefully hopefully, if I'll consider mission accomplished, if we get to a point in the future where we can segregate finance channels into two categories, right? People that just read the news, and then people that actually trade. And if you actually claim to be a trader, then you better show your positions and you better call them out ahead of time. That's kind of where I'm hoping to take this thing. I don't know if that's a bit of an ambitious idea, but one day at a time, as always, right?
Yeah, 100%. One day at a time. I've nearly finished my whiskey.
Not
Mission.
a whole
Oh God, no, no. I had half a bottle left. I had half my last whiskey Wednesday. Did you watch it?
I did, yeah. I commented, I think.
Oh, you did, yeah, yeah, yeah. But Jesus, I was pissed at the end of it. Terrible, absolutely terrible. But it was quite cool because I I'm such when I say it's a great time to be alive. Now, for some people, I totally recognise that might not be the case. This is a depressing side of life, because I know some people out there are in a really dodgy situation.
Yeah.
But I kind of love to be able to portray. Sometimes I know I have a bit of alcohol and whatever on a whiskey Wednesday, and obviously on a rum and whiskey do with you. It's so cool to actually try and portray that I give a shit. I actually do give a shit, and
I know you do. I can tell. I know you.
and it just be and I know you do, and I know Cobra does, and it's so nice to be around a few people that can let a few people out there. I think 365 done a wonderful video saying about stacking can be a lonely place.
Yeah, I know the one you mean.
Yeah, and I sat there and I thought, yeah, that's to do with stacking, but life can be a lonely place too. And there's just so many issues out there that, regardless of the circumstances I find myself in, it's so cool to try and work our way of giving back somehow. And that's why I will bum up your channel, I will bum up 365's channel, I'll bum up Cobra's channel, because you guys are actually giving it back. You're giving it back without wanting anything for it.
Yeah.
It's really cool to be around.
Yeah, it's awesome. The internet is awesome for that reason, right? Like,
Oh, it is.
We yeah, what 365 says absolutely right, because stacking can be lonely. Just being in finance in general can be lonely, right? Like, a lot of people they just don't care, right? Hey,
Yeah.
CBDCs are coming. Yeah, oh, wow, did you see the game last night?
Yeah.
Right, like, people don't care. So yeah, it can be super lonely. And the irony is that it's sort of like the finance people, that they want the best for humanity, right? They're not doing this for any other reason. They're trying to warn people because they can see what's coming. But so yeah, it can be super lonely. But that's the beauty of the internet. You can bring people together in a community, and you realize there's more of us than you might think initially.
Yeah, and that's what I try to put across in my videos, but it can also be a bad place.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool, mate. Love it. Absolutely love it. Totally. What are you doing? Oh, I'm going to change the subject now because I'm going down the wrong hole. That's alcohol for you. How are you doing it on the alcohol front? Have you sort of managed not to drink too much?
I've had 4 Budweisers and a glass of rum, but last time we spoke, CPM, I was absolutely wrecked.
I know. I said to my wife, I've got to calm it down a little bit.
Mrs. Camel said that I seemed absolutely fine, and then I said goodbye, and then I stood up and collapsed on the floor, and she was like, "What on earth have you done to yourself?" But I know what it is. I tend to drink in sort of waves, right? So I won't drink anything for a while, and then there'll be like a bunch of birthdays, parties. I'll take the missus out for dinner, blah blah. So I get like a bunch of drinking done in a short period of time, and then I won't drink again for a while. And then typically what happens is I come back to it having not drank for a while, and I haven't quite I've sort of forgotten that I don't have a tolerance at this point. So I'm like, oh yeah, drinking again. And I start like drinking loads of rum, and then suddenly I realize I got no tolerance. But by then it's way too late.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, I've been, as you can see, probably especially compared to last time, I've been way better behaved today.
You
But
have.
I've got to go and see the father-in-law because I think I said it earlier, we're going to chop a bunch of pipe down and make it into a roof rack so we can go
Sure.
fishing on Tuesday.
Sure.
We're heading down to Dorset, of all places. So
Yeah.
looking forward to that. March is probably the slowest month of the year.
What,
But we're
from
going to
a-
make it happen for fishing, for sea fishing it is anyway.
Okay.
But it's my brother's birthday. It's my brother's birthday, so we're going to do that. And I've chartered a whole fishing boat for him.
Oh, really?
He doesn't
From where?
know that. He doesn't know this, but I've chartered a whole fishing boat for him on Thursday. So we're going to go deep sea wreck fishing and try and catch some big congers and some
Is that his
whatever else is
birthday?
about. His birthday is the 15th, which is Friday. We're going to Dorset on the 12th for a day, and then chilling out on the Wednesday. And on the Thursday, we're chartering the boat for 5 hours.
Where are you going out from?
I would rather not say. We're going out from
That's fine.
from the southwest. Let's say that.
Okay, yeah, because the only reason why I say that is I think I had a go at that deep sea wreck fishing. We went out of Plymouth.
Oh, yeah.
That was a really cool experience. It's some of the best sea fishing times I've had out of there.
Have you done a lot of fishing?
I used to do a ton of freshwater.
Yeah.
My ex's uncle was a big sea fishing guy, and I'm trying to think of the boat we used to. Once a year, we used to go out. There was quite a famous guy that used to go out of Plymouth. Jesus, on a certain boat, used to go out Guernsey, Jersey way, steam out there, wreck fishing.
Yep.
And yeah,
You're
we
not
did
from.
that.
Are you from that area then?
No, mate, I am
You're
from
Oxford area, aren't you?
No, well, I'm originally from Essex.
Right.
I now live in Worcestershire, which is quite a bit different.
Yeah.
So I've been in Worcestershire for the last 23 years.
Okay.
But the southwest is, my sister lives down there. I love the southwest. It's just there's something about the southwest of the UK that I don't know what it is. It's just so appealing. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Absolutely lovely. And I just love, I love my nature. I love all elements of nature. And I think the Southwest provides all aspects. If you can get the right conditions, because I'm into my photography and nature.
Yeah.
If you can get the right conditions, I can definitely feel at home in that part of the world.
Sure.
For sure. So
Yeah, it drives a lot of people mad because a lot of people need like the hustle and bustle of the city life, and they need things open late at night and whatever else. But if you're not one of those people that needs the hustle and bustle, and you're okay with just walking the dog in the country and taking the dog to the beach or going fishing or whatever else, then this sort of area is fantastic.
Yeah, I don't.
There's not a great deal of opportunity in terms of work. I wouldn't have thought, but again, it depends on your career, right? For a lot of careers, you might need a city, but if you can find a way to earn some money, then it's a slower pace of life, and it's not for everyone, but for people that prefer a slower pace of life, I definitely I've been in plenty of cities, plenty of times, and they're not for me personally.
Yeah, I love it for what it is. You can get some, I don't know, some of my sweetest memories are from the southeast, because that's where I grew up. But there's a sense of freedom that if you can disengage with the hustle and bustle and noise, you remember the freedom of who you are. If that makes sense.
100%.
If you can get out of it.
Yeah, 100%.
And once you get out of it, you can just get in contact with the real you.
Yep.
But at the same time, I love I do love. Me and Cobra went to Berlin recently to the World Money Fair, and
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved it. I loved it, but I equally loved coming back to the Cotswolds.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like quite often when he rang me earlier and we was chatting and I was on my way back and I was thinking, oh my God, he was saying, oh God, the reception's really crap. And I said, yeah, but what I can see, you can't replace.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah, it's cool. Dude.
So yeah, I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it.
No, not at all. And
But to a lot of people, I appreciate it because a lot of people, you know, with
stuck.
the idea of taking your dog for a walk through some fields and some woods and then spending your weekend on the beach fishing, that a lot of people be driven mad by that. And I understand and appreciate that. And casting my mind back all those years ago to when I was a student, even the little things like being able to get a takeaway at 2 a.m, right? Like that was a big thing. It was like, oh yeah, like if I'm hungry or if we've been drinking on a night out, we could get takeaway at any time of the day, any time of the night. And where I live now, you'll be lucky to get, you know, 1 or 2 takeaways after 10 o'clock if you're really lucky. So yeah, little things like that. Some people are driven insane by that, but yeah, I wouldn't change it for the world. I like being in nature. I like being surrounded by the beaches and spend a lot of time with my dog and a lot of time fishing, as you know. So yeah, it's a simple life, but it does it for me.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Dude, this has been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Absolute pleasure. I'm going to wrap up. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to wrap up the recording.
Yep.
I can't believe that's 3 hours and 15 minutes almost.
Yep.
Where's that time gone? And I'm still sober. So, and I'm going to enjoy a nice spaghetti bolognese soon. So
Very nice.
thank you very much once again. I hope that's given some people a nice insight into improving their lives. And yeah, I look forward to doing, maybe give it a month or two because we're in exciting times to do it again, just as a catch up.
Yep. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to catch up as always. And yeah, whenever, let me know.
Yeah, you're a superstar. Thank you so much indeed. Take care, dude.
Cheers, bud. Cheers. Bye.
See you. Bye. Bye. Bye.